Hiromu Arakawa, the legendary creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, returns with Yomi no Tsugai, one of 2026's must-watch action fantasy anime. Blending folklore, modern technology, supernatural battles, and mystery, the story follows the twins Yuru and Asa as they are pulled into a dangerous world ruled by powerful paired beings known as demon pairs. Continuing from where the anime left off, the situation grows even more intense as two unidentified demon pairs suddenly charge toward them with one goal: to capture the twins. But who sent these enemies? What do they want with Yuru and Asa? And can the twins survive this sudden attack? Let's find out. While they were eating inside the car, Tadera informed Yuru that when it came to the details, even he and Hana did not know anything. Hana added that their families had lived outside the village for generations, and that the job they were doing was essentially something passed down from their ancestors. After that, Tadera said that his only orders from Granny Yamaha were to keep the location of Higashi village a secret from anyone outside the clan, and to make sure that Yuru and Asa would not fall into anyone else's hands no matter what, emphasizing that she was very strict about that order. He explained that he was the supply runner and liaison, while Hana said that she handled various tasks down the mountain and admitted that she had never even been to the village itself. Tadera said that he could not say what Granny and the other elders of the village were thinking, but as a Tadera, he had to follow the rules that had been passed down through generations. He then said that his real name was Ryu Tadera, but that Yuru could continue calling him Tadera as he always had. Yuru said that Granny Yamaha seemed desperate to keep him away from the attackers, and that even Tadera had been telling him to run over and over until he was worn out, and that was a fact. He then asked what exactly was so important about him and his sister, which caused Hana to glance at Tadera through the rearview mirror. Ryu began explaining about a pair of twins, a boy and a girl, who were born on either side of sunrise on the day of an equinox in a village of the east. He said that their birth heralded a fractured age, a world in discord, and that to their knowledge, the last pair of twins who sundered day and night, aside from Yuru and his sister, had been born 4 centuries ago in their village. In that era, he said, the country was split into east and west, and there was a great war. Long before that, he explained that there had also been another time when fighting broke out between the north and the south, and that demon wielders had played a role behind the scenes on both occasions. Yuru became confused and asked if that meant they were like cursed children who would throw the world into chaos. But Wright disagreed and explained that it was those who wished to manipulate their power, the power of the twins, for their own ends who would be the ones to initiate the conflict. Yuru questioned the idea of having power and pointed out that he did not have any, and Wright clarified that it was simply not yet the case. Left then interjected and said that he had a claim to power, and Tadera added that in all likelihood, Asa had already claimed hers. Wright commented that he was sure that the power Asa used was break. He explained that break was the ability to forcibly unravel all things, and that it could open even the mightiest barrier as easily as cracking an egg. The other half of the pair, he said, was seal, which was the ability to forcibly close all things. Hana asked what would happen if both powers collided, and Tadera said that it would be quite a paradox. He then asked Left if anyone had ever possessed both powers in the past, and she answered that as far as they knew, not a single soul had. Tadera said that he would take that to mean that nobody knew what would happen if the two came together, then asked what if the rumors about what could happen had taken on a life of their own, and the villagers were simply being led around by them. Hana remembered something and asked if it was true that the village had some kind of barrier around it, and if so, how he was able to go in and out. So Tadera explained that there was a fixed path that allowed one to slip through the barrier. He explained that it required following a series of specific directions, such as circling the cairn of stones counterclockwise a certain number of times, turning right at a fork, then doubling back at the next one and cutting through a valley, and finally making a sharp right at a specific large tree. He added that the path was well known within their clan, so he could freely come and go through the barrier. He also informed them that Yuru's mother was a woman from down the mountain who had entered the village after accidentally discovering that path. He said that this happened once in a blue moon, with hikers getting lost in the mountains and unintentionally wandering through the barrier, and that was how Yuru's mother had also made her way into the village. Yuru then remembered something. When he was still a child, his mother told him that in the language of the land where she grew up, his name meant night. She added that one day, she wanted to take Yuru, his father, and Asa to her hometown. The night passed, and Yuru entered a modern public restroom. Before that, Dara had instructed him that once he was done, he needed to flush the water and wash his hands. He tried to approach the hand dryer, but stopped himself and simply wiped his hands on his clothes, thinking that he hated those things because they roared like dragons and were far too loud. He was also told to extinguish the candles when leaving an empty room, which meant turning off the lights. After that, he exited the restroom and felt proud of himself for having done all of those things. He proudly stated that he had perfectly memorized the rules of latrines down the mountain. He met up with Right and Left, who were waiting for him, and there he expressed his amazement at the idea that they no longer had to draw water from a well, and Right wondered how those click-like things that could ignite fire with a mere push were possible, while Left commented that the lights burning all across the town, even at night, were astonishing. However, she added that the tall stone castles sprouting up everywhere were truly shocking, and Right agreed and asked how many lords they had in that place. Yuru said that he had been told those were residences, not castles, and that Dara had said dozens of people lived inside each one. Left said that for them, that would already be a capital, always bursting with people, but Yuru explained that that was the strange part, because this was not even the capital, and that the capital seemed to be called Tokyo, with over 10 million people living there, prompting Right to wonder how much rice they would need to feed them all. Yuru then pointed out that there were that many people there, and it was not even the capital, calling it madness, and tried to remember what the name of the place was that Hana had told him earlier. He uncertainly said Guntama Prefecture, so Left corrected his pronunciation and said that it was Guntama Prefecture. Right then pointed out that Dara and Hana were right that it would be easy to hide in a place crawling with that many people, and Yuru agreed and said that it was like hiding a tree in a forest, and Left added that they were searching for one such person in that forest, his younger sister, which Yuru agreed with again, but this time in a serious tone. He then commented that he thought Dara and Hana were both good people, but he said that if they were connected to the one he had mistakenly believed to be his sister all those years, and to the villagers who had kept that truth from him, then he could not fully trust them, and neither could he immediately trust the girl who claimed to be Asa. Because of that, Left asked if he wanted to seek out his parents, and he answered yes, and explained that to run away from your village while bringing a child with you, there must have been a very good reason, and he said that he wanted to meet them and hear their side of the story. He said that that was why he would catch Asa and make her take him to his mother and father. He then asked if he could count on Left and Right, and Left said that they were searching for someone in a world where they could not tell right from left, while Right said that it was interesting. He pointed out that it had been 400 years since they last had time to kill, and invited Left to make a game of it. But Left said that he should not speak of amusement when their master was desperate. Right then asked how she felt about it, and Left fell silent for a moment before suddenly speaking in a menacing tone, saying that it suited her better to be the hunter rather than the hunted. As they returned to the car, they saw Dara speaking to Hana on the phone about something, where he replied with Roger that. He then welcomed them back, and Yuru thanked him. Yuru pointed out that he used that thing a lot and asked what it was, so Dara tried to explain and said that the word phone probably meant nothing to them. So he tried to describe it as something like a smoke signal that could transmit written words and voices over long distances, but quickly simplified it and said it was just something like that, which made the three of them understand that it was basically the same as a smoke signal. Because of that, Dara called them goofs in his mind, then told them that Hana had gotten in touch and said she had found them a new place to live, adding that it sounded like they could move in right away and finally say goodbye to living in the car. Not long after, they arrived at an apartment complex and entered the room they would be staying in. Yuru was greatly amazed by the appearance of the place as Hana invited them inside. Yuru remarked that so this was what it was like inside those stone castles, while Hana informed them that the electricity and water were already set up, and that the owners would come later to turn on the gas. Left went straight to the bathroom and sat on the bathtub, which intrigued both her and Right, while Hana told Dara that he could use the Western-style room. She then asked Yuru if she was right that he would like the tatami room, which shocked him even more. Yuru said that back where he came from, tatami mats were only used for special occasions or for asa, and when he felt it, He asked if all tatami down the mountain were really that thick, to which Dara responded by asking if their village only had goza mats, pointing out that tatami had more layers. Yuru lay down on the floor and exclaimed in delight how wonderful and luxurious it was, almost unable to believe that he was really allowed to sleep there. A dog and a cat suddenly appeared beside his head, and after staring at them for a moment, both animals simultaneously struck him in the face with their paws. He shouted and sat up, while Hana apologized and said she would introduce them to him. She explained that the cat was Kotetsu and the dog was Jiro. Right and left then entered the room, and after sitting down, Right informed the pets that they were Yuru's demons and that they would be under their care. He also added that they were known as the divine guardians called Left and Right. Right and Left then introduced themselves to Kotetsu and Jiro while giving them high fives. Dara then asked if those were Hana's demons and said that it was a pleasure to meet them, which only confused Yuru even more. Yuru asked if they really were demons, pointing out that they were just a dog and a cat, prompting Jiro to punch him and Kotetsu to scratch the finger he was pointing with. Right told him not to lump them together with ordinary animals and said that they would be taking care of him, so he should be polite and greet them properly. Hana informed them that they were known as Zenko Kuro, or tiger at the front door, wolf at the back, and asked them to get along. Hana then suggested to Dara that since he had been found out, they should use her family name, Dano, to which Dara agreed, apologized for the trouble, and thanked her. Yuru read the name, and Hana informed him that it would be the surname he would use from now on. Yuru was shocked to hear that both she and Dara had family names, and asked if they were from some renowned lineage, but Hana explained that down the mountain, everyone had a family name. Dara then whispered to them that, on top of that, Hana even owned her own mountain, which shocked Yuru again and made him think she was a land baron. But Hana corrected him and said it had simply been passed down through her family. She added that no one maintained it, so it had become overgrown, and she could not exactly sell it either. Yuru asked if he could go there to hunt, but Hana told him not to say it so casually, as if he were just going to pick vegetables. Dara then informed him that he needed a hunting license to hunt down the mountain, which confused Yuru, so he explained that it was a permit, proof that he had permission, and while they were on the topic, he added that he would also need a license to drive an iron carriage, prompting Yuru to comment that they certainly loved bothersome rules down the mountain. In the next scene, the focus shifted to Asa, where she was practicing using her break power on an apple. From a somewhat distant position, she flicked the air, and because of that, she was able to peel the apple slightly. She looked at her hand afterward, and after thinking for a moment, she tried flicking all of her fingers at once, which caused a stronger impact that struck the area she was targeting. Because of that, she fell silent and reflected, noting inwardly that it simply would not go the way she pictured it. Then a man approached along with Jean and two others behind him, and he remarked that he could see she was diligently practicing. The man greeted her, and Asa addressed him as her master. She apologized, saying that her accuracy still needed improvement and that she kept ruining his garden, but her master replied that it was fine and that it was not as though she had killed anyone, then encouraged her to keep practicing. He then instructed Jean to clean up the mess, and Jean immediately complied. Jean called his demon, which turned out to be the lantern fish demon, and it quickly devoured the broken stone lantern. Asa asked what brought them there, and her master quickly remembered and said that they were paying Gabby a visit to check on her condition. They then went to her room, and here Gabby was surprised to see that someone had come to visit her, and said that they really did not have to go through the trouble. Their master asked how she was feeling, and she replied that she was already fine and even thanked them for their concern. He said he was glad to hear that, then asked Gabriel if he was also doing well, to which he answered that he was, so their master said that was good and that he was happy to hear it. After that, Asa offered Gabby some food, which she gladly accepted. Asa then became concerned when she realized that she did not have anything to use to cut it, which prompted Jean to ask if they needed a blade. He called another one of his demons named Makoto, which looked like a different kind of fish, and it produced a knife from its mouth. He handed it to Asa afterward, and she thanked him. Gabby then remarked whether they realized that she was the one who would be eating the apple that had been cut using a knife with such a dubious origin. Jean told her not to worry and said that it had not been used to stab anyone, which made her comment that that did not make her feel any better. After a while, Once they had finished setting up the table, their master told Gabby to just focus on recovering, which she agreed to. After that, he told Asa that he wanted her to remain there with them on the estate, which confused her. He explained that if word got out that both she and her brother were now off the mountain, people would come after her, and that there were those targeting her, including the Kagemori. He added that as long as she was under his roof, he would have some peace of mind, and that Jean would handle the search for young Yuru, then asked if that was understood. Because of that, Asa reluctantly agreed, while Jean said that he would not recognize the brother if he saw him again, prompting Gabby to touch her forehead in irritation as she realized they should have taken a picture. Asa drew a picture of Yuru with a more handsome look and said that he looked like that, which made Jean comment on how biased she was. When he saw how ugly Gabby's drawing was, he was dumbfounded. But when he saw Gabriel's skill as he drew in a traditional Japanese style, his tone changed into shock and amazement. Not long after, he decided to start by following the Tadera lead, and their master told him not to let him down. Before Jean could leave, Asa followed him and told him to wait. She and Gabriel gave Jean an image and informed him that her brother's demons had a keen sense of smell and that they could identify people by the scent of their blood. Jean examined the image. The scene then shifted to Dara's situation at their apartment, where he commented that he felt like he had changed after shaving. Hannah noticed his facial hair, so he explained that he shaved it all off since his face had been recognized, and that even a small change like that could help prevent enemies from spotting him. Hannah then asked why he had to go and lose any and all resemblance to Jason Statham, adding that he was now worthless to her, which made Dara comment that only days after tying the knot, his wife was already verbally abusing him. The topic then shifted to family, and he asked where their son, Yuru, had gone. So Hannah informed him that he went out for a walk and said he was just going to look around the area. Dara asked if she thought Yuru would be okay, and Hannah said that his demons were with him, so she did not see any problem. After that, Dara looked at his basket and asked Hannah if she had seen his billhook, but she said she had not touched it. He pointed out that he had left it right by the door, then asked how far she thought Yuru had gone on that walk. Hannah began to get angry, while Dara said that Yuru was in violation of weapons possession laws, and that if the police questioned him, they would have a real mess on their hands. Hannah shouted in irritation and said that she had already told that brat not to cause any more trouble. The scene then shifted to Yuru's situation, where he was looking over the city from a rooftop with left and right. He commented that the place was incredible, pointing out that there was a starry sky down on the ground and a vast world spread out before him. He quietly observed it, when Wright suddenly asked whether it was so much bigger than he had imagined that he was thinking it would be nearly impossible to track down one person in such a vast place, and Yuru nodded while feeling overwhelmed. Left said that if Asa was searching for him as well, they would cross paths sooner or later, and Wright added that it was a mutual love and that he liked it. Yuru asked if he was right that they could sense other demons just like how they sensed Oshira-sama, and added that Dara mentioned that the Kagemori clan had demon wielders in their ranks, which Left agreed with. He then asked if they also knew the scent of the girl claiming to be Asa, and Wright agreed. Because of that, Yuru said that they needed to find a place where there were multiple demon pairs and a blood scent that matched his, then asked if they could do it. Suddenly, both of his demons transformed into monstrous forms, and Left said that she thought that would work, while Wright said that if so, it was time to take their sensitivity up a notch. They flew into the sky like thunder striking upward, and it turned out they had taken Yuru with them, with Left holding him in her hand like an object as they flew incredibly fast through the air. After a while, Left caught a scent and pointed out where they should go. They landed in a warehouse area, and after returning to their human-like forms, Yuru was left trembling and shaken from the experience. Wright said that he could smell blood just like Yuru's, as well as many demon pairs, and commented that they had found the location of his sister, while Yuru, still shaken, asked if there were demons nearby. Left asked whether they should reveal themselves and whether they had permission to mow them down without question, prompting Yuru to ask what if they were like Oshira-sama, demons they could talk to. Left pointed out that he would be wise not to judge all demon pairs by human standards, and that most lived in a different world from his, so he should not expect to fully understand one another. Yuru replied that he understood and that he should think of them as bears or wild boars, prompting Wright to call him a simpleton in his mind. Right caught another scent, turned toward it, and they began to follow it in secret. They arrived at a parking area where they saw Jin with two other men while he was speaking to someone about Tadera's location. He told the person that Tadera might already be long gone, but if he uncovered any leads, he asked to be contacted. Right commented with excitement that those men reeked of demons and of Asa as well. He added that if they had noticed them, then the other demons must have sensed them too, and asked Yuru if he could see them, to which he answered no. He then asked if he was right that the men in black were humans, which they confirmed. Soon after, someone arrived and caught Left and Right's attention, causing them to sniff the air. It turned out to be Asa, and she was muttering something to Jin, and when they got close to each other, Jin dropped his call. When Yuru saw her, rage suddenly surged within him as he remembered the massacre she carried out in his village. So without thinking, he revealed himself and tried to shout Ace's name while preparing to fight using a knife from behind him. However, Right shouted at him to wait and pointed out that what they were smelling was old blood. Before he could finish speaking and before Yuru could reach Asa, Jin's demon, I suddenly emerged from underground, phasing through a pillar and instantly placing Yuru inside its open jaws, ready to bite. Using the sharp teeth of that demon, they formed a prison-like space around him. Jin then took something from his coat, saying that he had heard that his demon companions had keen noses and revealed some kind of vial. He added that if Asa had succeeded in luring him out, then he must be the twin brother, and it turned out that what he held was the lure tip of the anglerfish demon. He then introduced himself as Jin Kagemori and said that the fish with him was the scavenger, his demon pair. Left and Right looked at his demon, while Jin added that it was a pleasure to meet Yuru in person. While that was happening, we returned to Dara and Hannah's side, where Hannah was worried about Yuru's disappearance, so she immediately urged Dara to look for him as soon as possible. Dara agreed and explained that Yuru might hurt someone because he still did not know much about the rules of their world, which Hannah also supported and added that what would they do if Yuru got into an accident. Dara pointed out that Hannah said she hated children, but she was actually a total softie, so Hannah questioned what he was talking about and told him not to get his hopes up. She asked if Dara realized that Yuru was not even a registered citizen yet, which he agreed with and stated that he had only just come down from the mountains. Because of that, Dara realized what it meant, so both he and Hannah fell silent while saying at the same time that the kid had no health insurance and that they would have to pay the full medical bills if he got into an accident. Dara cursed repeatedly after that, while Hannah called Jiro and gave him Yuru's scent so he could track him down. When Jiro smelled his clothes, his whole face scrunched up from how bad what he smelled was. But after that, he immediately moved and went outside while Hannah told him that she was counting on him. He jumped from their balcony and quickly leapt across the rooftops to follow Yuru's scent. After that, Hannah gave Kotetsu a phone with the Maps app open, and he immediately moved it around and examined it. Dara was amazed by how tech-savvy Kotetsu and Jiro were. So Hannah explained that because they had lived with humans for so long and had been passed down through each generation, they had completely adapted. Hannah looked at what Kotetsu was showing her about where Yuru and the others were, and she was completely shocked when she saw that they had reached Tokyo. Dara was stunned as well and said that the kid really was ready for action, while Hannah irritably said that Left and Right were most likely the ones responsible for that. Dara wondered if Yuru was lost, but he immediately realized that he was not, so he thought again and wondered if he had gone there for a reason. While that was happening, we returned to Yuru's situation, where Jin explained to him that the elders of Higashi village wanted to control the twins just as much as they did, and that there was a possibility he could not simply rule out. He asked what if they wanted everyone to think that they would no longer try to abduct Asa, especially now that he was hiding after the attack on the village. What if they were hoping that their guard would drop and give them a chance to strike? He pointed out that this was why he had laid that trap. He commented that Yuru had made their job of finding him easier, so he thanked him while calling him Mr. Big Brother, as Yuru glared intensely at him. Yuru tried to strike the teeth of Jin's demon with his weapon, but it did nothing, so he commented inwardly that they were incredibly hard. One of Jin's companions then spoke to Yuru's demons and pointed out that they knew they were hiding, then ordered them to show themselves. The surroundings went silent while Left and Right remained hidden behind the wall. Right asked what they should do now. Left said that she could not smell any metal on them. So it seemed that they were not carrying weapons, which Wright agreed with, but he added that he could sense demons. Aside from that, there were also two other pairs. They were most likely owned by the two men accompanying Jean. It seemed they were hiding and waiting for them to make a move. Because of that, Left and Right began thinking, but before long, they decided to just show themselves and walk toward them while saying that whatever happened would happen. One of the men was surprised that they actually showed themselves, and when they got close, he stopped them at a certain point and said that they had their master. While he was still explaining what they would do next if Yuru's life mattered to them, Left and Right began walking again, causing the man to fall silent and try to tell them once more to stop. However, they continued approaching, which made the others even more alarmed, and they shouted that they had just told them to stop and that they were currently holding their master hostage. Right asked Left who they should take as their hostage, and Left answered that they would capture the sullen one, Jean, making him stare at them. Yuru told them to forgive him and said that it had slipped his mind earlier, to which Right said they could not blame him. Left told him to just stay where he was, which surprised him and made him ask why. She explained that if he stayed there, it meant they would have one less troublesome-looking demon to worry about, and he realized that was a good point, so he simply obeyed. Jean irritably asked why the demons were the ones giving orders to their master, while one of the men with him shouted and asked if a pair's top priority was not normally to protect their master, so Yuru clarified that he was a hands-off boss. Right laughed loudly after that and said they should do as they pleased, and they would do the same. As they walked closer, Left told him that their enemies had no weapons, so he should take it easy, and Right returned the same comment to her. Jean then signaled his demon, Makoto, and it immediately released a large number of weapons from its mouth. Jean and his companions then aimed their pistols at them all at once, and Yuru noticed that those weapons were the same as the ones used by the people who attacked their village. Because of that, he immediately warned Left and Right to be careful because those weapons were dangerous, but before he could even finish, Jin's group rained bullets down on his demons. However, Jean clicked his tongue in irritation afterward because their bullets had done nothing to Left and Right's bodies, and they even questioned whether those things were really dangerous. Left clarified to Yuru that they were made of stone, and Yuru could only fall silent and say that he knew that. The bald man with Jean followed up their attack with shotgun fire, but that still had no effect. As he simply caught the shells, Right said in irritation that this was starting to annoy him, while Left asked if that thing was some kind of matchlock firearm. The men were not done yet, and another of Jin's companions brought out a grenade launcher, then fired it right in front of Right. However, it still did nothing, so Right said that their toys would not work on them. Makoto then burped, and a stone lantern flew straight onto Right's head, which made Left wonder, and that seemed to be the thing that caused the most damage, as Right's head was pushed back slightly. After that, Jean and the others decided to use close-range weapons like a katana and a crowbar. The bald man prepared to strike Left with his crowbar, but she easily blocked it with her hand, and as a counter, Left threw the man toward the pillar beside them. Jean then tried to cut Right's body with his katana, but it simply broke when it touched his shoulder. Because of how many weapons they had used, Right questioned Left's claim that they were unarmed and said they looked more like they were armed to the teeth. He also said he saw no reason to hold back, which Left agreed with. The haired companion of Jean became worried because of what was happening, so he told his bald companion, Akio, that it was show time, which caught Akio's attention. A giant tortoise demon suddenly appeared above Left and Akio, so Akio immediately ran away. When it fell, an incredibly heavy force crashed down on Left's shoulder and destroyed the spot where she had been standing. Right became worried for her because of that, while a small creature tapped him. When he turned around, he saw a bunny demon grinning at him and waving. Using its extraordinary speed, it suddenly kicked him in the leg, causing him to lose his balance. Before he could fall, the bunny followed up its attack with a kick to Right's face, a sweep to his other leg, a double kick to his head, and then another kick to his body. When this small demon knocked him down, Yuru was completely shocked and, utterly shaken, asked what was happening. Because of that, Right called out to Left and said that if possible, she should help him, but Left simply apologized to him and said that she could not move. The tortoise demon only smiled as it continued sending an extraordinary gravitational force onto her body, while Right was also left shaken and clarified that what he was feeling there was incredibly heavy. Right continued to be beaten up by the nimble rabbit, so he shouted for Left to help him, but because of the weight of the tortoise pressing down on her, she only told him to help himself. On Yuru's side, he observed the surroundings and their current situation. He stared at the ceiling around them, tapped the teeth of the demon holding him hostage, and also looked at the tortoise demon. He thought of something to do in that moment and said that he understood it, then readied his blade. He threw it hard out through Ai's teeth, and it struck the tortoise demon on the head, causing it to become dizzy and lose focus on applying the heavy force to Left. Left immediately felt it, so the moment the weight pressing down on her disappeared, she quickly moved and went in front of Ai and Yuru, who were clearly shocked by her speed. She prepared to deliver an axe kick and told Yuru to move aside, and before long, she easily shattered the sharp teeth of the anglerfish demon that had imprisoned Yuru. Left then commented that the teeth of the demon she had fought before, Gabriel, had been harder. Yuru also moved quickly and picked up a piece of Ai's tooth, then threw it straight at Akio's head, which he easily caught, while his companion was completely shocked. He then called Right, and as an assist, asked him what the last thing he did when leaving the latrine was. Right immediately realized what he meant when he turned toward the light bulb and shouted that the answer was lights out. He roared loudly, causing the bulbs around them to shatter. Their enemy demons were forced to brace themselves against the falling shards of glass, and so were their pairs. The surroundings became pitch black after that, and everything went completely silent. The hair demon called out to his pair, Haruo, and asked where he was, so Haruo answered so they could find each other. His demon informed him that he sensed the boy Yuru's demons moving away, which made Haruo worry that they had escaped. In Jin's mind, he did not agree with that and explained that Akio's demons were simply waiting for them. But just as he was thinking that they should not assume they could escape from them that easily, he turned toward the door where the exit sign had been broken. He remembered what Asa had said, that her brother had the mentality of a diehard hunter, and because of that, he got chills from what he realized. Yuru was already behind him, ready to cut his legs with his billhook. Jin managed to dodge it, but he was a little too late, so his right calf was still struck. He shouted for his demon, Makoto, to help, and it produced a flashlight to shine on them. When the area around them lit up, his companions saw that Yuru was already behind him and that his billhook was pointed at Jin's neck, which greatly alarmed them. Because of the wound Jin had received, he could not stand there, while Left and Right were shown to have only been hiding behind a pillar. Right asked if Yuru had caught them, while Haruo was surprised by the two of them. He insisted that demons did not abandon their master and run away, and that it was common sense, which made Right wonder. He and Left stood behind Yuru afterward and explained that he knew nothing about them, but that was how they dealt with their master, and Left added that as long as the outcome worked in their favor, they were free to do as they pleased. Yuru added that was it not common sense to run away when given the chance, and said that he did not want all of them to go down together, making Jin comment that it was a reasonable assessment. Right then said that he believed they already knew this, but in case they had forgotten, Yuru was the twin of night. Left pointed out that darkness was his hunting ground, and that they could leave him to his own devices and he would manage just fine. Haruo was surprised by how much faith they had in their master, and asked how cool that was. Right added that, of course, if Yuru had not caught his target, they would have done it, and Left also said that even in such darkness, they could still track them by scent. Jin then realized something and remarked that it would be best not to assume that those raised there shared the same intuition as a boy of the mountain, born and bred. Yuru pointed out that he said he was a Kagemori, then asked if his clan was responsible for the attack on his village. Jin fell silent there for a moment, but then directly answered that he was the one who ordered that attack. Yuru became furious upon hearing that and tightened his grip on the billhook, which greatly alarmed Haruo and Akio. Just as they were about to charge, Left stopped them and signaled for them to stay where they were, which they did. Irritation was clear on Yuru's face after learning that, but he managed to stop himself from killing Jin. He asked Jin if it was true that he had a small smoke signal. He explained that he was referring to the thing that let them talk even from far away, and that he had seen Jin using it earlier, making Jin realize that he was talking about a smartphone. Once he understood that, Yuru ordered Jin to send a signal to Asa because he wanted to speak with her. Akio wondered if he wanted to talk to her, while Haruo asked if he was not going to tell them to hand her over to him. Did Higashi Village not want to obtain both twins? He asked, to which Yuru answered that he did not know and did not care what their intentions were, and that he had only gone there of his own will. Jin said that if that was the case, then he had to insist that Yuru come to the Kagemori Manor, and informed him that Asa also wished to see him. Because of that, Yuru asked what sane person would willingly walk into a bear's den, and once again ordered him to bring Asa there instead. He also asked if they really thought they had a choice under the circumstances. Akio then cut in and said to wait, and to let him treat Jin's injury first because he noticed that Jin might bleed out otherwise. Yuru informed him that he had not intended to kill Jin, but still allowed him to do it. Jin asked if he had aimed to make the cut shallow, and Yuru answered yes, while somewhat hesitantly calling him by his name. Yuru also pointed out that he had not sensed any bloodlust from him, but added that if he had, he would have responded in kind. Because of his appearance and words, Haruo commented inwardly that mountain folk cut off from modern civilization were scary, and his two demons felt the same fear. In Yuru's mind, he said that if Jin's first attack had been intended to kill, he would have been dead already. Wright pointed out in his mind that Jin owned the fish demons, so Yuru realized that the tortoise and the hare belonged to Haruo. Left then said that she could sense another pair of demons nearby, then asked Akio if they were his, which he confirmed. Wright asked why he had not brought them out, while Left asked if they were not suited for battle, and Akio answered that it was the opposite, explaining that they had been out since earlier. He added that they were simply too large to get inside, and a massive eye was shown peering through the door behind him. Because of that, Left and Right stared at it for a moment, while Yuru began sweating heavily from nervousness. Akio said that he could force them inside if they wanted. Jin then said that he would not call Asa there, and once again told Yuru to come to the Kagemori compound, assuring him that they would take no further action against him if he did. He also asked if Yuru understood that he had no intent to kill him. Yuru thought for a moment and said in his mind that between the tortoise and the hare's pursuit, and the giant thing staring at them from the door, Left and Right would have a hard time. Because of that, he said Jin had won and agreed to go to the Kagemori house. He reminded him not to mess with Left and Right either since he was going along as Jin asked, and Jin said that it went without saying because all three of them would be treated as honored guests. While this was happening, Jiro was shown still on the move, searching for Yuru. After that, Yuru said that now that it had been decided, Jin should take him to Asa. Jin said to bear with him and explained that they had to clean up after themselves first. After that, he gently instructed I to clean one more thing, which his demon happily did. Haruo commented that Scavenger was a hopeless slob, prompting Yuru to ask what he said. Jin explained that scavengers could be called collectors of refuse if one wished, and said that I would eat anything he asked, while little Makoto could produce any of those things at his discretion. To prepare for emergencies, he said that he regularly fed them useful items. But given their nature, he also fed them garbage, or bad people he wanted to remove from the world. He added that it was somewhat convenient. He explained that if he wanted to carry out a hit, a hijacking, or a terrorist attack, all he had to do was bring Makoto along, and he could pass through any metal detectors or inspections without anyone noticing. Yuru commented that there were many words he was not familiar with, but he could see that his pair had its uses. Left then spoke to Haruo and asked something about his demons. She asked how many con the tortoise weighed, which confused him. He realized it was a unit of weight from the Edo period and wondered how heavy it would be when measured in kilos. Not long after, he said that he could not tell Left since he had never weighed it, but it could become heavier if he wanted it to. Left and Haruo's tortoise demon then stared at each other, and suddenly Left turned away and said that she understood that she still had a lot of training to do. Haruo's heart skipped a beat at Left's boldness, and he called her a hardcore lady. Right and Haruo's hair demon also locked eyes there, and as Right closely observed the demon, it gave him a teasing grin. Because of that, he became irritated and asked Yuru if he was good at hunting hares, which confused Yuru, who said that snares were the best way to hunt hares. He also said that they made a delicious broth when cooked, which greatly frightened Haruo and his hair demon. He called Yuru a barbarian, while Akio asked whether demons were even edible in the first place. A security guard then arrived and asked if anyone was there. They encountered him, and Haruo greeted him. He asked if he was a guard in that place, while Akio said that the lights had suddenly gone out and they did not know what to do. The guard became concerned, and when he saw the fluorescent bulbs, he wondered why they were already broken. Haruo asked if he thought it was a power surge, and said that the lights had suddenly shattered, which had greatly frightened them. The guard informed them that the lights in the stairwell were still working, so he asked that they use that path when they left. They all agreed, both humans and demons, even though he could not see them, and they happily thanked him for his help. While that was happening, the scene shifted to Asa's side. Her smartphone vibrated while she was already in bed, so she slowly picked it up and opened it. Her eyes widened when she saw Jin's message saying that her brother was with him. She immediately woke Gabby by repeatedly hitting her body, which startled her and made her spit in surprise. Gabby, now worried, asked if there was a surprise attack happening, but Asa, in great shock, said that Jin was bringing her brother there, which Gabby found hard to believe and commented that he worked fast. Asa asked what she should do and what she should wear, to which Gabby said how would she know and asked why she was talking as if it were a date. While that was happening, the scene returned to Yuru's side, where he was already inside Jin's car. Jin called his master and apologized for disturbing him at such an hour. He informed him that he was calling regarding the Higashi village twin, which the man immediately realized was Yuru. He said that they had reached an agreement earlier and that they were already heading to the compound with him, while Yuru commented that the cave they were passing through was quite long. Jin's master, who seemed to have just come from a bath, was pleased and praised him. He then asked if he could wait until he returned. Jin asked if he could know where he was, and he answered that he was at a hot spring. He explained that he had been about to take a quick bath after a hard day's work, and as he said that, he was shown with two types of demons flying beside him while he stood atop what looked like the frightening head of another demon. After their conversation, he simply told him that he would be heading back shortly. He also instructed his bodyguards that he did not want anyone to mistreat young Yuru. After a while, Jin and Yuru arrived at the Kagemori compound. They drove their car into the large area, and as they looked around, Wright commented that just as they had heard, the Kagemori had several demon wielders, but he told Jin that he could not sense hide nor hair of any demon. Jin clarified that there were indeed many of them there, and explained that they were still in the zone meant for the general public, which made Wright wonder what he meant by zone. So Jin informed him that it referred to an area of land. He added that the barrier zone only began from the point he was pointing at. They reached another gate with a long fence, and as soon as they entered, right and left immediately felt a difference in the flow of the air, which intrigued them. They said that they could now sense demons there, and that there were far too many to count. On Asa's side, Gabriel sensed Yuru's arrival, so he immediately informed Gabby, who then told Asa, making her anxious that her brother had already arrived. Asa asked Gabby if she would come along, but she irritably said that she did not want to see the guy who had put 2 holes in her body, and that it still hurt for her to walk. In that case, Asa asked her to just wish her luck, so Gabby cheered her on and said she would just go back to sleep. On Jiro's side, he also arrived at the Kagemori compound, and as he observed it along with the intercom, Kotetsu was also able to locate his position and showed it to Tadera and Hana. Tadera was surprised when they saw a massive building, while Hana commented on how large the property was. Kotetsu then began typing on the smartphone and showed them that the place was owned by the Kagemori. Because of that, Tadera and Hana both looked drained, and Hana lay down in frustration as she thought that Yuru had been captured by them, while Tadera refused to believe that idea, considering that the Divine Guardians were with him. Tadera then stood up and said that there was only one way to find out, and decided that he would go pick up their son himself. Hana asked if he should bring their car, and he answered no, saying that they were not yet connected to that place anyway, and that he would just take a taxi. Hana then asked how he would get back, and he answered that they would just take the train. After getting dressed, he said his goodbyes and mentioned that he would give their child a social studies lesson on the way home. After that, the scene returned to Yuru, where they arrived at another building with 2 individuals waiting for them. Yuru was amazed at how large the entryway of the building was, while Wright commented that it was like a castle one would find on the plains. After that, an individual carrying a lantern appeared and thanked them for burning the midnight oil, and said that Jin truly was a workhorse. His appearance was then shown. Haruo called this man Asuma and greeted him, while Jin asked what he was doing there. Asuma answered that since he had heard that the other twin would be arriving, he thought he would extend his welcome, which made Jin comment that he did not recall telling him about that. Asuma grinned at that, and Creepolis said that he had sharp ears. He became concerned when he saw Jin taking a crutch out of Makoto's mouth and asked if he had been injured, to which Jin replied that it was nothing. Asuma's attention was drawn when he saw left and right, and he asked if Jin had been injured in a tussle against the two of them, while also praising their appearance. He then approached Yuru and said that he must be Asa's brother. He introduced himself to Yuru as Asuma Kagemori and said that it was his pleasure to serve him. Asa then arrived and immediately shouted her brother's name, and when she and Yuru met eyes, he stared at her seriously. She suddenly wondered if he was not dead and if he was really alive, which made Yuru comment on what kind of greeting that was. She then asked if she could hug him, which he irritably refused. She apologized afterward and explained that she did not know how close she was supposed to act toward him, to which he said that it was the same for him. Yuru clarified that he did not come there to get buddy-buddy with Asa, and that he was there because he needed answers. Asa agreed when she heard that and encouraged him to ask her anything, then asked again if he could hug her once they were done talking, which Yuru once again shouted no to, while Asa was even amazed and commented that he looked really cool when he acted cold. Yuru brushed that off afterward and asked why she was not showing any concern for Jin even though he was injured, which immediately surprised Asa and made her say that they should go to the infirmary right away. Asuma then suggested that given Jin's current condition, Asa might as well give Yuru a grand tour of the place, which surprised Asa as she said he had not even noticed her, prompting him to comment that this girl only had eyes for her brother. Jin then seriously told Asuma that Yuru was a guest of both him and Asa, and that he had no business interfering. Asuma agreed and simply said that he hoped Yuru would make himself comfortable there. Jin and Asa looked at him, and once Asuma had moved a bit farther away, Jin instructed Akio to stand by outside the barrier and not let anyone enter, which he agreed to while observing Asuma. As for Yuru, Jin told him not to leave his side while they were inside. He said that he could not allow them to lose track of him there, which made Yuru and his demons stare at him. After that, they went to the doctor of their place. When the doctor saw Jin's wound, she said that it needed to be stitched. She could not believe that a literal billhook had caused it, so Jin confirmed that it was true. The doctor said that if that was the case, then that was the reason they had knocked on her door and woken her up at such an hour, because he had been slashed by a young boy holding a billhook, letting out an irritated sound. She also commented that teenagers these days were scary, so Jin said that normal teenagers did not just swing billhooks around. Yuru asked if that was really so, and said that every boy where he came from should have a billhook or two if you asked him, which Asa agreed with, while Haruo commented inwardly that the two of them were twin barbarians, no less. Jin then handed Asa's vial of blood back to the doctor, and the doctor told him not to make a habit of carrying blood in his pocket because it was not sanitary. Yuru suddenly pointed out that draining a woman's blood was the work of demons, so Asa clarified to him that it had actually been her idea. She explained that thanks to modern medicine, one could draw blood from a person without cutting any blood vessels to get what was needed, which left Yuru speechless. He and his divine guardians were completely shaken as he wondered if that was some kind of sorcery, while Asa pointed out that the blood had been taken cleanly and properly in the infirmary. The doctor said that if he used the needle he was holding to prick himself, they could immediately obtain blood. And if the person drawing the blood was skilled, he would not feel any pain at all, which further unsettled Yuru and made him question whether that was some kind of healing arts and what the deal with it was. Haruo thought to himself that Yuru seemed fine with bloodshed but got worked up over blood draws, and commented that the boy's sense of morality was skewed. Asa added in her explanation that since the Kagemori fed her properly, she was fine with giving a little blood, then once again asked if she could hug Yuru, which he once again loudly refused. Now that they were on that subject, Yuru expressed his surprise at how tall Asa was, and said that she should have been smaller and cuter, so Asa told him that he would grow too if he kept eating the food there. Yuru asked if the food there was not too salty, which made Asa wonder if that was the case. So Yuru clarified that it just felt very rich, prompting her to comment that she might have simply gotten used to it. Even so, Yuru said that the rice was incredibly delicious, but he immediately realized that they had gone off track and said that he did not come there to talk about rice. Asa agreed and said that he had something he wanted to ask, then once again asked if he could hug her after they finished talking, which made Yuru comment that he would give her credit for one thing, and that was that she did not give up. Haruo then wondered in his mind if it was just him or if those two were actually getting along. After that, Yuru seriously told Asa to tell him where their mother and father were, which surprised her. He told her to let him see them, and asked if they had not left the village together with her, which Asa confirmed. Just as Yuru was about to feel relieved upon hearing that, Asa said that they were not there, which left him stunned. He then asked where they were, and Asa answered that they were missing and that she did not know where they were. Jean looked at them while Yuru's face showed clear distress. Jean asked Asa how much information she wanted to tell Yuru, and she answered that she would tell him everything and explained that she did not want to lie to her brother. Jean began explaining that many things had happened after their parents left the village, and that they had gone to the Kagemori to seek temporary protection. He added that once they had settled into their new life, they decided to visit their mother's birthplace, which made Yuru remember that his mother had said she came from down the mountain and that she had always talked about wanting to take him there one day. Jean informed him that their mother was from Okinawa, and Asa added that it was an island far to the south of where they were and could only be reached by airplane or ship. Yuru became confused by the word airplane, so Asa clarified that in their village, they called them dragons. Because of that, Yuru asked if those were vehicles, and Asa said he was right and explained that each one could carry around 100 people. She continued that before, their mother had officially been considered a missing person there, last seen on a mountain in northeast Japan, so she wanted to show her parents back home that she was still alive and well. She brushed that aside and said that they had been left in the care of the Kagemori and boarded an airplane bound for Okinawa, and on that plane, their parents suddenly vanished, which shocked Yuru and made left and right's expressions turn serious. Yuru asked if they had fallen off the airplane, but Asa answered no and explained that they disappeared mid-flight from inside the sealed plane while it was in the air. She informed him that they knew for a fact that they boarded the plane in Tokyo, but when it landed in Okinawa, they were gone. Yuru anxiously asked if someone had abducted them, but Asa said that she did not know. He then asked if they did not have guards, and she said that they did. Jean added that the Kagemori had assigned a trusted demon wielder to guard them, but they still disappeared, along with the guard, which gave Yuru a dreadful feeling. Wright said that if he were Yuru, he would be looking for the escort, which Left agreed with, saying that they might have been enemies pretending to be allies. Asa's expression turned serious as she said that it could have been a Higashi village spy who infiltrated the Kagemori as a guard. Jean apologized to Yuru, saying that whether those people were friend or foe, it was their fault, while irritation was visible on Yuru's face. Yuru then asked Asa if she truly trusted the people there, pointing out that they had lost their parents, to which Asa said that ever since they left the village, countless assassins had been after them. She said that the Kagemori were the ones who helped them, their master, Jean, and the others there. She then declared that she had faith in the Kagemori, which made Haruo smile and Jean simply listen, while Yuru remained irritated and uneasy. Outside, someone suddenly commented that the boy had entered the Kagemori manor and praised Jean, calling him clever. The individual pointed out that they were the first twins to sunder day and night born in a village of the East in 4 centuries, while his companion repeated in a crazed tone that they were the first in 4 centuries. Another one said that now both of them were there down the mountain. He pointed out that the girl with the jaws had a leg injury and her movement was hindered, while the other said that Jean was also injured and the master of the house was out, prompting him to say that this was a golden opportunity. His companion then asked if they should seize both twins in one fell swoop, but the other asked if he was sure and pointed out that the boy Yuru and his demons did not seem like pushovers. The one with the crazed voice repeatedly asked about the girl, so the other said that it was nighttime and her power would be weaker than during the day. He added that the boy could die for all they cared, but as for the girl, they only needed what was above the neck. Not long after, Right and Left suddenly felt an eerie aura around them, prompting Left to open the window curtains. When she looked outside, she saw 2 demons that appeared to have faces of the yin and yang symbol. The 2 demons then forced their way inside, breaking the window and drawing the attention of those inside. While this destruction was happening, Gabriel tugged on Gabby's hair to wake her up. She asked what he was doing, but before she could add that it was not even light out yet, 2 demons with large heads entered her room. She smirked and greeted them, saying that she did not think they had met before, while Gabriel prepared himself for battle. The scene then returned to Yuru's side, where all of them were running away from the room that the yin and yang demon had attacked. While running, Yuru irritably asked Jin if this was how they treated all their honored guests, luring them into a trap after saying what they wanted to hear. Jin denied it and said that those were not Kagemori demons, but intruders inside the manor. Left asked if they had permission to take down that demon pair, while Jin said that he would prefer to capture their wielder if possible, which made Right think about it and point out that finding the master in such a vast mansion would not be easy. The doctor commented that if they were going to fight, they should make sure to kill the opposing demon wielder, adding that treating an enemy's wounds was a hassle, which made Haruo question whether she could still call herself a doctor after saying that, then called her Dr. Sakuzawa. Yuru asked what would happen to a demon pair if their master died, and Haruo answered that if the master died without passing control to someone else, the demons would become strays. The hair demon added that this was why demons generally protected their master above all else. Yuru thought about that information, while Haruo also said that their contract would be broken and they would become bound to a place like ghosts. And if no new contractor appeared and those demons were forgotten, they would eventually cease to exist after a few decades or centuries, or so he had heard. Yuru commented that that was harsh, and then decided that he would leave the masters alive if he could help it. Haruo was shocked by that answer and asked if he was prepared to kill them if necessary, while Asa teared up and said that her brother was too kind. After that, Yuru asked Jin if his demon Makoto had arrows and bows, and Jin signaled Makoto to provide what Yuru asked, prompting it to spit out multiple types of arrows and bows from its mouth. This shocked Yuru, and he asked what all of those were, saying that he had never used any of them before. Not long after, he decided to pick a common-looking bow and quiver and give it a try. He got ready, and with a quick spin and flick of his hand, he fired arrows toward the yin and yang demons, but they flew right past them, which irritated him, and he said that he could not use it properly without making adjustments. On Jin's side, he called Gabby and asked if any attackers had come her way, and she said that something really did. While the monster continued trying to reach her with its mouth, Gabby asked when those things had gotten inside the manor. She pointed out that based on the sounds, it seemed Jin also had visitors, to which he answered yes and explained that they were currently fighting an unknown demon pair, prompting Gabby to shout for them to finish them quickly. However, Jin informed her that he was injured and could not move, which angered Gabby and made her call him useless. She pointed out that Asa was with him and told him to make sure to protect her. Jin said that Yuru and his demons were assisting them, so Gabby asked if they were the ones who had kicked her demon and sent it flying. While they talked, it was shown how Gabriel was fighting the demon pair that had attacked them. Gabby clicked her tongue in irritation and called Yuru a stupid jerk, but said that she had nothing to worry about. She then asked if Jin was okay with her doing her thing there, and if she could kill those rookie demons, and Jin told her to go ahead. Gabby responded with an aye, Captain, and it was shown that Gabriel was protecting her, already holding one of the attacking demons in his mouth. The other demon, which looked like a horse, tried to pull its companion out of Gabriel's mouth, but it was too late when Gabby ordered Gabriel to chomp. Gabriel's jaws closed, severing the demon's head and hands. As Gabriel opened his mouth again, she waved at the remaining demon while holding its companion's head and said that leaving it alone without its other half seemed cruel, then told Gabriel to chomp again, and her demon quickly finished the job and took down the remaining one. After that, Gabby stepped out of her room, and as she looked around, she saw several demons watching her from different spots. Because of that, she smirked and told Gabriel that they were lucky with how many midnight snacks had arrived. While that was happening, the scene returned to Yuru, where Jin looked at his phone and said that it seemed Gabby was fine, which made Asa relieved. After that, Asa said that she would deal with that demon pair first, so Yuru asked if she could really do it. She asked if she did a good job, could she hug him, but Yuru still refused and said no way because she might break a few of his ribs. Asa informed Jin that she might destroy the manor and apologized in advance, to which Jin replied that he would take responsibility and face the master's anger himself, and told her not to hold back. Haruo added that it was the same for him, and said that if he destroyed the manor, he was sorry in advance, but Jin brushed it off and said he would take all the blame, prompting Haruo to shout that it was blatant discrimination. They looked back at the yin and yang demons, and Asa asked Yuru if he could distract the white one for her, to which Yuru said he did not take orders from her, but still said he would handle it. Both of them prepared to fight, while the two demons began merging and completing the yin-yang circle. A sudden flash appeared before them, catching left and right's attention. A massive light surrounded them, and suddenly Asa was transported into a dark space, while Yuru was sent into a blinding white space. The twins were confused about what had happened, while their companions' eyes widened in shock. When the smoke cleared on their side, Yuru, Asa, left, and right were nowhere to be found, prompting Haruo to ask where they had gone. Jin and Haruo shouted Asa's name in worry, and they also noticed Yuru's disappearance, so they asked what that demon had done. The yin-yang demon then started to run away, so Jin forced himself to stand despite his injury to try to stop it. Haruo quickly acted and brought down his tortoise demon onto the creature, pinning it to the ground. He said that he did not know what that demon had done, but if it had the ability to make people disappear, then it might also be able to tell them what happened to Asa's parents. His tortoise demon snorted, and it seemed that because of that, the gravitational force it was emitting became even heavier, pressing the yin-yang demon deeper into the ground. Jin told him that he could destroy the building if needed, but whatever else he did, he must not kill the demons or their master, which Haruo followed. Haruo's hair demon sniffed the air and sensed that they were being surrounded by strange demons, which shocked him. Upon realizing that, he suddenly told Jin that he was counting on him, while his hair demon added that he needed to protect him and then took his leave, leaving Jin momentarily speechless. Jin had no choice but to stand there and comment that this had to happen when the old man, Natsuki, and Fuyuki were not around. He then asked Dr. Sakurazawa where Hagure was, and she said that he was fast asleep after hitting a deadline and that waking him now would cost them their lives. Jin rolled up his sleeves in preparation and commented that in that case, he had no backup. He asked Makoto for a pistol and told it, and I that it was time to get to work. After that, the scene shifted to Asa, who called out the names of everyone who had been with her earlier, hoping to get a response. However, the surroundings remained silent, and she said that she was truly alone there. She remembered being locked up back in the village, and because of that, she began to feel uneasy and nervous. She held onto her arms, trying not to break down. Suddenly, Wright spoke from behind her, saying that she was not alone, which startled her. She immediately recognized him as Yuru's demon, which he confirmed, saying that he was the right half of the Divine Guardian's left and right. Asa said that it was so dark that she could not see anything, to which Wright said that he could not see her either, but he was there. Wright then commented that this was true darkness, and that even in Higashi village, there were places as dark as this. He said that he could hardly even see his own hands. Something then caught his attention as he turned toward Asa. He smelled the pungent scent of her cold sweat, so he asked if she was afraid of the dark, which surprised Asa. She remembered even more clearly the times when she had been locked behind the wooden fences in their village. She told Wright that she hated being alone in the darkness. Wright fell silent for a moment after hearing that, and while smelling her scent, he estimated where Asa was standing. He managed to place his hand on her head and comforted her by saying that he was there, so she should not be afraid, and that she was not alone. Asa smiled when he did that, but suddenly became worried when she remembered Yuru. She anxiously asked where he had gone and whether he was also inside that strange space, to which Wright said that he did not know, and based on his sense of smell, Yuru was not nearby either. Asa asked if he was not Yuru's demon, so why was he not moving to save him? Wright said that Left was most likely with him, so he would manage. Wright then informed her that he came with her because he wanted to talk to Asa, which puzzled her. He explained that when they first met in the village, she attacked him unprovoked. He also said that she had not said a single word since they arrived at the Kagemori Manor. Wright suddenly transformed into his monstrous form and menacingly asked if Asa knew that he was her natural enemy. Asa fell silent for a moment, but when she said something about Wright having 86'd her power, he wondered what that meant. She clarified that she meant neutralized, but he still did not know the word, so she apologized because she did not know what word she could use. Even so, she thought of the word cancel and used that instead. She explained that when Wright canceled out her break power, she remembered something. Her father had told her once that the divine guardians, left and right, each had the ability to stop, break, or seal from running wild. Right said that if she had already heard that, then he no longer needed to explain it. He told Asa that he was her nemesis and that they should make use of that. They stared at each other after that, and Asa realized that meant if Yuru obtained the power of seal, then Right's other half would become his natural enemy. While that was happening, we went to Yuru's side, where Left suddenly landed beside him. She commented that she could not see anything in that space, while Yuru was completely surprised and said that he did not know Left was there too. He asked where this place was, but quickly corrected himself and asked what this place was because it was completely white, to which Left answered that she did not know. She said she had existed for a long time, but this was the first time she had ever seen anything like it. Yuru touched the ground and said that there was one there, but it was also white. He commented that this place was making him dizzy. Left informed him that while she was flying around, she had hit something that she believed was above them, so there was most likely a ceiling there. Her impression was that they were inside a spherical barrier made by the demon pair they had fought, which left Yuru completely shaken. He thought of something next and asked if they were the only ones there and whether there were any enemies around, to which Left said that she could neither sense nor smell any beings other than them. Yuru decided to adjust his bow and asked Left for help, which made her ask whether this was really the time or place for that kind of thing. While testing the hardness of the string of his bow, Yuru said that he did not really understand what was happening, but he did not want to waste valuable time. He added that his father had taught him to be thoroughly prepared in any situation and to always keep his equipment in the best possible condition. Left asked if that confusing situation did not frighten him, and he answered that it hardly did, saying that ever since the attack on their village, nothing that had happened made sense or was easy to understand. Yuru simply grinned and added with a faint gloom in his tone that he and these so-called confusing situations had been friends for a long time, which made Left think that he was pitiful. After that, he instructed Left to stand where he was pointing and raise the billhook because that would serve as his target. Left did so and asked if that was how it should be done, which Yuru agreed with. Yuru prepared his bow and aimed at the billhook Left was holding, but when he released the arrow, it struck Left directly in the forehead, so he immediately apologized. He also wondered why she did not dodge it. So Left explained that retrieving the arrows later would be a hassle if she dodged them now, which Yuru agreed with, though he still did not seem fully convinced by that decision. So Left once again pointed out that she and Right were made of stone, so he should not worry, and Yuru simply let it be. After that, Yuru said that even so, he was still sorry about it, and that he would get used to it quickly while carefully examining his arrows, while Left hurried him along. He also commented that he felt like he was not in his game for some reason, then tried shooting again, but it struck Left's forehead again, so he apologized once more. Left asked if he should not be worried about his sister, which made him ask what for, so Left pointed out that she had been swallowed whole by the black demon's barrier while they had been swallowed by the white one. Yuru said that his sister had the power of break, so if it was a barrier like Left said, then there was no need to be concerned. In the outside world, Haruo's tortoise demon sensed something while pinning down the yin-yang demon, so it jumped away from it. Haruo asked why it had stopped while calling it Torty, and the yin-yang demon also seemed puzzled by what it was feeling. Its head began to crack and pulse, and before long, Asa and Right emerged from it thanks to her powers. Right commented that the demon's barrier had been the cause of it after all, while Asa was glad that they had gotten out. Haruo's demons welcomed Asa back, and she thanked them. After that, Asa got ready to attack again and said that the yin-yang demon should let her break its contract with its current master. She placed her hand on the demon's head, and because of that, it suddenly seemed to lose its energy and collapsed onto the floor. Dr. Sakurazawa then threw a vial to her, which she caught. Asa questioned her for keeping that aside, even after telling Jean earlier that doing such a thing was not sanitary. Asa apologized to the demon before throwing her blood onto it, saying that it had been old for a while. Her blood sizzled when it touched its body, and she said that it was time for a master swap. After a short while, the yin-yang demon regained consciousness. Asa waved at it and said that she was its master now, so it began giving her loving cheek rubs. Because of that, she commented on how friendly it was and wondered what its name might be. She calmed the demon afterward and said that the two of them would be partners for a little while. After that, she said that she did not want to jump straight into making a request, but asked if it had eaten her brother, which the demon confirmed, making Asa shout and repeatedly order it to let him out. She said there was also one more thing she wanted to ask it. She asked if it could tell her where she might find its former master, and the yin-yang demon immediately obeyed and pointed to her left. Haruo fell silent and could not believe that Asa had made a demon pair betray its former master, while Dr. Sakurazawa pointed out that she had already called it earlier, saying that teenagers these days really were terrifying. Because of Asa's command, that demon suddenly spat out Yuru and left. Everyone was completely shocked that they had gotten out too. The two of them were confused, and they immediately took their stance to attack that demon. Asa stopped them. She told them to wait and stop, because now it was on their side. Yuru asked for an explanation. She answered that that demon pair was trapped in a strange place before, but now it was their ally. Haruo added that since they had the power to make people vanish as if they had disappeared into thin air, he thought their master might know something about what happened to Asa's parents. Because of that, Asa said that what they would do next was capture him. When they heard that, Yuru and the others withdrew their attack. Asa asked the demon where its master was, and it pointed outside, toward the side. Its former master was hiding and became alarmed. He thought her ability was overpowered and could be called cheating. He slowly fled, annoyed that those demons had betrayed him. There was nothing else he could do but run. Meanwhile, Asa said that it was too dark outside, but suddenly an arrow passed right beside her. It struck the demon master's shoulder. The one who fired it was none other than Yuru. Then he ordered Right to capture him. Yuru was curious about who else they needed to capture. Asa sat down on the floor, saying that at last, she had witnessed how skilled her brother was at archery. She said that being alive made her so happy. Yuru did not expect that reaction from her. Meanwhile, the chaos happening throughout the entire place continued. An old man came out and noticed Jean, and Jean apologized to him because of the commotion. But he added that things would get a little messy around the manor, though he would take care of the cleanup later. While he was talking to them, demons suddenly appeared from above. However, I simply ate and captured them. Jean asked those who were not fighting to just hide somewhere safe until he was done throwing out the trash. They answered yes, sir. In every corner of the place, enemies were hiding. One of them noticed Jean approaching the area where he was and became pleased about it. If he kept coming that way, they will smash through the door. However, Makoto suddenly peeked in on him and spat something at him. It turned out to be a bomb. As a result, he and his demons were defeated without any difficulty. Jean simply continued walking, and there was another enemy hiding behind a bush. He recognized Jean and thought that if he defeated him, it would be a huge hit to their firepower. Because of that, he ordered his demons to charge at him. But without any difficulty, I simply ate them. Jean then shot their master. When he dragged him out, he noticed that he did not recognize that face. Gabby suddenly greeted him and thanked him for cleaning up. She said that she had defeated 5 pairs, and she did not recognize them as demons of the Kagemori. Jean proudly said that he had taken down 8 pairs, and he agreed that they really were weak sauce. When he heard a sound, he suddenly aimed his gun, but the man already received an arrow in his shoulder. They noticed that it was another new face, and they wondered if he was a demon wielder. Jean approached him to make him talk. While the man was groaning in pain, he pleaded. He said that his demons had already been killed by the dentures. He said he had no weapon, so he was surrendering. When Jean noticed the arrow, he already knew it was Yuru. He turned around and wondered where he had shot from. Yuru was positioned there on top of the roof. He was alert in the middle of the darkness and ready to attack. He observed the surroundings and looked for where the other enemies were. When he moved, a man from the bush admitted that he was terrifying. If he faced him head-on, he would surely be hit in the neck before he could even get close, and he would probably die immediately. And since it looked like everyone was already gone anyway, they were probably done there. He said he did not want to get hurt. He should have known. A team made up of just whoever they could gather in a rush could not fight. Because of that, he was leaving. A man wearing a bonnet was hiding in the bush. He cursed and admitted that he had only taken that job because the pay was good, but he said he would not die for it. He would have to make them look for new demons for him again. He really did walk out, but he did not expect that someone was blocking the way there. He bumped into it and fell seated on the ground. He had not expected that. That demon slowly opened its eyes, and the clanging of metal could be heard on the floor. It turned out to be its master, Akio. He prepared to strike that man and defeated him. After the battle, the manor fell silent again, but the damage left behind by the fighting that had taken place there was clear. Every corner of the place was already in ruins. Haruo noticed that Jin had apparently returned, and he praised him for what he had done. However, Jin was worried that it was especially bad this time. He apologized to Yuru for getting him involved too. Yuru answered that it was a strange welcome for him, but Jin admitted that they appreciated his help. Yuru said that he had not done it for them. He had done it to get a lead on his parents. Gabby came out and asked how Asa was, but she became irritated when she noticed that Yuru was there too, calling him a dumb brat. He teased her back and called her stupid shrimp. Gabby got annoyed because, in her view, she was older than him, but Yuru thought she was lying. He said he had let her off last time, but he still had not forgiven her, and she should not forget that. Asa stepped in between them and calmed everyone down. Asa explained that Yuru and his guardians had helped them. Gabby said that was obvious. There were so many people tied up there. When Gabby noticed just how many they had captured, she asked what they were going to do with them. Jin answered that the old man would decide how to resolve it once he came back. For now, what they needed was to extract information from them, and Haruo would handle that. He spoke to one man, and the man said they would be paid a large amount if they captured the twins. But he did not know who was behind it, and he glanced to the side as he said so. Because of that, Haruo approached and said it looked like he needed the classic, which confused him. The tortoise stared at him and suddenly climbed onto his lap. And because it was so heavy, the man could not stop himself from screaming in pain. Haruo insisted that he was already lucky because he had not placed the jagged thingy underneath him. But he pointed to the cobblestones on the floor. Haruo asked him again who he was working for. Was it someone from the Kagemori? However, he answered that he knew nothing about that and swore it. He said they had just suddenly been called in and given a job with good pay. It was like a part-time gig. He had never even met the others on his team before. It seemed like they were all dime a dozen demon wielders who could be found just anywhere. He screamed that his legs were about to be crushed. Haruo thought that if he did not know who had hired him, then there was probably someone in charge on site. The man answered that it was the camo guy, the man wearing a camo jacket and with a beard. When he heard that, Akio became alarmed. The man added that he was probably lying outside the gate. Because of that, Akio could only apologize, and Jin already knew what that meant. So he said they would move on to the next question. He asked whether the man knew anything about where the married couple who had left Higashi village was. They were the parents of the twins there, and they had disappeared while on their way to Okinawa. Was there anything he could say about that? Yuru and the others waited for his answer, but he insisted that he really did not know. He did not know them. He pleaded for them to take the tortoise off him already. Yuru cut in and said he would accept anything he had. Even trivial things could become clues. Was there anything he could think of? But he answered that there really was nothing. Even his companions said that they had no idea. The siblings grew worried. Even Jin could only let out a sigh. Haruo asked whether anyone else had anything they wanted to ask them. Asa raised her hand and said that she wanted to ask him something. The man said anything was fine, as long as they removed the tortoise from him. She asked for the names of his demons. The man was confused and asked what names she meant. Asa was curious about what he called them. The man admitted that he had never named them. He would just say, "Hey, you," or whatever. Because of that, Asa said that demons should definitely be given names. But he answered that they were just like farm animals, were they not? He said they needed to imprint the master-servant relationship on them so they would learn who the boss was. They should not be befriended or given names. Gabby was not pleased with that, so she released Gabriel to kill him, which the man had not expected. He trembled and accepted his fate. But Asa stopped Gabby. Because of that, she stepped back and took it back. Gabriel no longer went through with biting him. Gabby simply walked out and said that she was going to change clothes. They were left there, and Yuru wondered about it. Because of the man's answer, they removed the tortoise from him. Haruo figured out that that was the reason his demons had betrayed him. The tortoise and the hare spoke to him and said that they had feelings too. The man began sweating from nervousness. Haruo looked at the others and said that now was the time if they still had anything else they needed to say. But they insisted that they were only part-timers. And one of them said that his demon partners had names. Yuru lowered his head because, after all of that, they still had not gotten any clue about their parents. Asa apologized to him because he had gained nothing from coming there. She looked at the demon pair behind her and wondered what she should name it. They were delighted and approached her, but Asa insisted that she was only their temporary master, so they should not expect too much from her. And when they were nearly crushing her, she asked them to make themselves smaller. Because of that, they suddenly transformed into black and white creatures. Asa found them incredibly cute. Yuru suddenly remembered that Asa had mentioned she was being targeted by assassins. He asked if that was what her life had been like since she left the mountains. More or less, she answered, but she said it was just a bit dangerous right now, considering how many enemies there were. That was why it had been a huge help that he was there, and she was deeply grateful to him. She said that the manor had been a safe zone for her for far too long, so she had let her guard down. She admitted that she needed to be more careful. In Yuru's thoughts, it was no wonder she had become so mean-looking. Yuru suddenly became curious about her right eye. He asked if the assassins were the ones who had done that. Asa fell silent because of his question, and so did Jean. After a few moments, Asa said that he could say that. Yuru was confused by that. However, Asa admitted that she could not lie to him. As everyone listened to her, she admitted that she had died before. She said she had been killed by a Higashi village assassin, which shocked Yuru. A flashback suddenly appeared. The first time Yuru felt someone's intense desire to kill was some time before their parents fled from the village. Perhaps it had been a bandit. He had gone hunting in the mountains with his father back then, and that was where he had almost died. It was as if the world were telling him that he did not deserve to live. The air was filled with that kind of intention, an intense desire to erase him. He felt as though it was stabbing him through every opening in his body, as if it was slipping beneath his skin and piercing straight into his flesh and insides. In that moment, he used his weapon to fight that man. A few moments later, the man collapsed. Yuru felt relieved. It turned out the man had been shot in the shoulder by an arrow, and his father had saved him. His father was deeply worried for him. He called his name over and over and asked if he was all right. He checked whether he had any wounds and noticed that the blood on his body was not his. His father hugged him tightly and apologized. He said that he should not have left him alone, even for a moment. Yuru asked what that had been. That was when his father told him not to forget that feeling. That was bloodlust. He would probably experience it again in the future. He warned him that it would be thrown at him again and again as long as he lived. And when that time came, he must not hesitate before people who faced him with that kind of desire to kill. His father took the arrow from the man's body, as well as the blade lodged in his stomach. Then he threw the man's body toward the cliff. After that, he turned to his son, Yuru, who was only sitting quietly at the side. It was clear that he was shaken by what had happened. So his father approached him and asked whether he had calmed down yet. He stroked his back and said they would stay in the mountains for that night before returning to the village. That should be enough to give him the time he needed to recover and calm himself. He told him to breathe in deeply and slowly let the air out, and Yuru followed his father's advice. His father added that he should imagine that, along with the breath he released, he was also letting out the noise inside his mind from his body. Depending on the time and place, a confused mind could become a matter of life and death, especially for hunters like them. In hunting, lives were at stake, both theirs and the beasts they pursued. He needed to stay calm and assess the situation. He should always think about what he needed to do and how he could survive using the tools he had on hand at every moment. His father said that death pounced where a person became weak because of the turmoil in his mind. That afternoon, they gathered sticks to make a fire, which they used for cooking and as a light. His father spoke to Yuru and told him not to tell the villagers that he had been attacked by a bandit. Yuru became curious about why. His father answered that it was because the companions of that bandit might come and attack their village. Because of that, Yuru thought they should warn them, but his father insisted no. He doubted they would raid the village. Yuru was confused by that. Once again, his father said that he was not to tell anyone at all about that bandit. And when they returned to the village, he wanted him to go back to his usual self. That meant he would act as if nothing had happened. He needed to remain alert and keep his mind clear. Yuru could not believe it. The next day, when they arrived at the village, people greeted them. They said they had been terribly worried when they heard that they had not come home yesterday, so they were relieved to see them there. Yuru's father apologized. He said they had been following the tracks of the animal they were pursuing and had ended up extremely far from home. Since Yuru was with him, He thought they should just take it slowly and spend the night in the mountains. The villager was surprised that they had spent an entire night there, yet had not brought back any catch. That was unusual for a hunter as skilled as him. Yuru's father laughed and said that was just how things turned out sometimes. A few moments later, a woman noticed them and called Yuru's father by his name, Mine. He greeted Kyoka and said that they had come home. She let out a sigh and thanked him for coming home together. Someone else said that they had been extremely worried when they did not return there. It turned out to be Yuru's grandmother. She asked whether something had happened in the mountains. Mine denied it. He said that he had only followed the animal he was pursuing, but that had ended with them getting much too far from home, so they could not return last night. As the old woman came down the stairs, she asked whether the child had been hurt. Young Yuru was greatly shocked as to why she would ask that, but she pointed to the blood on his clothes. Yuru broke into a nervous sweat, unsure how to answer, but Mine answered for him and said that it came from a rat they had killed for their dinner. His stomach suddenly growled, and he said he was hungry. He said a rat had not been enough to fill them up. Because of that, he looked for Nagisa and asked if Asa was with her. Kyuka answered that yes, they were inside. Mine then invited Yuru to eat breakfast with his mother. They went inside the house, and he immediately greeted Nagisa. She stood up and said that she was happy to see them. She had been deeply frightened when he had not come home. Because of that, Mine apologized to her. He also apologized to his daughter, Asa. He said they had gone too far into the mountains, so they had returned late. Asa asked her brother whether he was all right. He smiled and said yes, of course. She had nothing to worry about. Asa was on the verge of tears when Yuru reassured her that he really was fine. He sat outside her room and admitted that he had been nervous about sleeping out there in the wilderness. He was a little tired after that. Asa reached for his back and told him to be careful. When he felt her hand, Yuru turned and smiled. They were all together again as a family. But only a few moments later, Mine called Nagisa and whispered something into her ear. When she heard it, the distress in her eyes was obvious. The siblings wondered about it when Mine suddenly stood up. Yuru, especially, did not know why. After the strange thing that happened while they were hunting, his father and mother left the village and left the siblings behind in the village. At least, that was what Yuru thought. But now, he realized that he had been the only one left behind. His parents had taken Asa and fled. The Asa he had believed was his younger sister in the village, the one who had stayed by his side for the past 10 years, had apparently been nothing but a fake. The people of Higashi village had deceived him for 10 years. That was what the girl claiming to be the real Asa was saying. And now, that same girl was telling him something strange. Back in the present, Asa admitted that she had died before. She had been killed by a Higashi village assassin. Yuru's eyes widened when he heard that. She said they had fled from the village and continued hiding until they were taken under the protection of the Kagemori clan. Just when things had finally started to settle down, their parents suddenly disappeared. After that, last year, when she was 15 years old, the assassins caught up with her too. That was where she was killed and where she obtained the power of break. It was a power belonging to a demon pair that lived on the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. She met one half of that pair, Break. The scene of when she obtained it was shown. A strange creature greeted her and noticed that flesh had arrived. It was Asa, standing on a road made of skulls. She wondered about the surroundings around her. She thought about it because she remembered being slashed by a Higashi village assassin. After that, she had died. The one speaking to her answered that she had indeed died. Asa was curious whether she was in hell. It answered that, judging by appearances alone, it certainly did not look like paradise. But it wondered why she believed without a doubt that she would go straight to hell after dying. What kind of life had she lived in the land of the living? It said that this was the boundary between their world and the land of the dead. It searched through the many books behind it and took one. It read what was written inside and said that, in the language of their homeland, that place was called Yamatsu Hirasaka, the road between the world of the living and the dead. Asa thought that it was just like what her father had told her. There was a legend that had been passed down in their village. The twins, a girl and a boy, born on opposite sides of the sunrise on the day of the equinox in a village in the east, would cross into the land of the dead and rule over the demons. The creature was surprised by that, and it seemed that the tale had been slightly distorted through rumor, as often happened with words that passed through many mouths. If they were going to be more exact, it said, That place was only outside the land of the dead. Asa suddenly fell deep into thought. She said that people from the village were chasing her to kill her. But the creature answered that no one could reach that place without surrendering to death. So it asked Asa what she would do. Asa wondered what she could possibly do. The creature told her that the people who arrived there had two paths to choose from: embrace death or embrace him, the power. If she wanted to die, she only needed to step off that path. But if she wanted to live, she needed to embrace him, break, and she had to return to the world of the living. The creature assured her that he would be extremely useful to her. On a battlefield, she could separate the heads of enemy generals from their bodies, as long as they entered her sight. She could end wars all on her own. In due time, she would be honored as a hero. There were many other uses for that power. But in exchange, she would be hunted by those who wanted to exploit Break. She might live in hell while still alive. A time might come when she would think death would have been better. But Asa said that perhaps her own hell had already begun. Her parents had been taken, and she had no idea what had happened to them. Because she had been born, her parents had gone through hardship. She stopped at that thought and remembered her brother. She asked whether her brother had not come there yet, and she wondered if they had killed him too. But it answered that it did not know. And if he had died, he had probably gone to Seal. He had not set foot there yet. It did not know what had happened to her brother. Asa weakened and simply sat there. She said that she could not just die there. Yuru had been left behind in the village. She did not know whether he was alive or dead. He might have been killed too, just like her. Because of that, she needed to save him. She could not just roll over and die like that. Once again, she was made to choose there, life or death. As she hung her head and her tears fell, she made her decision. Break commented that her gaze was very beautiful. She should point that gaze toward the path in front of her and continue on. She should never look back again. Asa was then shown bound to a chair. The ones who had killed her were there, worried about whether she would come back to life. The woman answered that it was impossible. They were the first twins in 400 years. She could not believe that they had gotten her, only for things to end up like this. The man asked whether she was sure it was not a body double set up by the Kagemori. She insisted that she had seen that girl in the village. There was no doubt that it was her. The man answered that she might be right, but years had already passed, and she had been a child back then. Besides that, she had been locked up in a dark cell there. How could she be sure she had seen her face? But the woman insisted that it was her. Well, the man answered she had failed to revive, and now no one would be able to obtain Break. The other answered that there was still Seal. Seal alone would be enough to turn the underworld. Her brother was for the village. They would make him into an obedient bearer of Seal. Before long, they would kill him too. The moment they mentioned that, Asa suddenly came back to life and realized she was bound. Asa's furious eyes could be seen, along with something like electricity in them. The two of them were greatly shocked because of it. A few moments later, Gabriel could be seen, and Gabby was searching for Asa. She entered the warehouses to look for where she was. A little while later, they were shown entering a room, and Gabby had a strange reaction to it. Because of what she saw, she called Asa a damn dummy. The two who had abducted her were already dead, and their blood was scattered across the floor. Gabby insisted that Asa should just leave the killing to them. Asa apologized to her. She said she had not chosen to become one of the twins who separated day and night. But from that day onward, she would walk the path she chose, and that meant her hands would be stained. Back in the present, Asa apologized to her brother, Yuru. She said that his perfect little sister, the tiny, cute, and pure Asa, was dead and gone. Yuru only stayed silent after hearing that. On the other hand, Gabby could be seen entering a room. What greeted her there were animal figures that seemed broken apart. She picked them up and noticed that they were a cow and a horse. They were like the mythical hell guards, Gozu and Mezu, an ox head and a horse face. She noted that they were in great shape for their age, and someone must really have loved them. Because of that, she dug into the ground and buried them. After that, she covered them and placed a tombstone there. She stood up, and because she was so hungry, she wondered what they would be having for breakfast. Meanwhile, someone else could be seen busy cleaning. It was Akio, cleaning up the traces of the battle that had taken place. He then heard a visitor greeting them from outside. The visitor asked if anyone was there and looked for the Kagemori. He became curious about whether he should press the intercom button. He had thought that rich people had guards at their gates. Because of that, Akio opened the door and asked what he could do for him. The visitor greeted him and said that he was probably one of them. He apologized for the trouble and introduced himself as Ryu of Tadera. He said he was there to take Yuru. Because of his arrival, they immediately called Jin. When Yuru heard their conversation, he realized that they were talking about Dera. Jin said that it looked like he was there to pick him up. So he asked what Yuru wanted to do. Wright realized that they really had forgotten about Dera. Yuru broke into a nervous sweat because of that. After all, they had not even given him any kind of heads up that they were going there. He thought carefully because of what they had said. Asa trusted the Kagemori, but Dera and Hana were the opposite, having told him not to get involved with them because they were a royal pain in the butt. Because of that, Yuru said he thought it would be okay if they heard both sides of the story at the same time. That way, they would know they were on the same page. So he requested Jin, saying that he wanted Dera to join them there, if that was all right. Jin agreed and told Akio over the phone to escort him to the manor's front door. He also reminded him that there would be no killing now. Akio answered yes, and said he had already apologized for that. While they were heading there, Asuma greeted Jin. He asked whether something had happened, because the manor was a mess. Asa greeted him good morning. Jin explained that a group of outsider demon wielders had entered and destroyed the place. Asuma commented that it seemed they had gone through a terrible ordeal. And when Jin asked where he had been while all the chaos was happening, and why he had not even helped, he only smiled and said he had been in dreamland. Jin could not believe that his sharp ears had not picked up the noise from all that commotion. Another person arrived and was shocked by the state of the place. He asked Jin what he was seeing. Why had the manor been destroyed? Asuma called him Hagure and greeted him good day. Hagure greeted him back and asked what he had missed. Had there been an earthquake? From what Asuma had heard, a large group of demon wielders whose targets were Asa and her brother had raided the manor. Hagure was startled and asked whether she was all right. Asa waved and said she was fine. She apologized for worrying him. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that she was okay. Then he suddenly froze when he realized they had said Asa and her older brother. Jin pointed Yuru out to him and said that Asa's brother had been found. Hagure was delighted by that and said he was so happy for Asa. He was surprised that this was Yuru because Asa had told him so many stories about him. Left and right could be seen watching him closely. When Asa introduced her older brother's demons, Hagure became nervous and pleaded with them to be gentle with him. Hagure apologized to Jin because he had not been there to back them up when the situation had been so intense. He said he had been in crunch mode to hit a deadline, then crashed out afterward. Jin answered that he did not need to apologize. He was surely tired after a hard day's work. But Hagure became worried and said that this did not seem okay. The whole point of the barrier was to keep outsiders from getting in. Jin said they did not know when they had entered or where they had come from. But rest assured, they would force the truth out through torture, or rather, questioning the culprit they had captured. Hagure commented that the situation was terrible. The manor was no longer safe. They would have to sleep while staying alert, with one eye open. A car approached them, and Hagure realized that it was his father's. Jin said it looked like the old man had returned. When he got out of the car, Jin welcomed him back. He answered that it looked like they had had a busy night there. On the other side of the car, Dera also got out and greeted them. Yuru was completely shocked when he saw him. Dera asked whether he was all right. Jin became curious about why they had arrived together. The old man answered that they had been going the same way, so he had let him ride with him. According to the old man, Dera was part of the Tadera, and he was saying that he was Yuru's guardian. He introduced himself to everyone as Ryu Tadera. The old man shook hands with Yuru and introduced himself as Gonzu Kagemori, the clan head. He said he was pleased to meet him. He had also heard about the work of his demon pair. When he saw left and right, he was impressed. Meanwhile, Jin was glaring darkly at Dera. In his thoughts, the Tadera clan were the retainers of Higashi village. They served as the village's liaison to the outside world. What they were talking about was a clan so cautious that they had never even seen so much as a hair on their heads. So he was curious what a Tadera was doing there, simply walking around defenseless in enemy territory. When Wright asked whether there was any chance Dera was in cahoots with the Kagemori clan, Yuru said no. After all, both the old man and Jin were throwing intense anger and hatred at Dera. They wondered what the Tadera had done to the Kagemori. Yuru called out to Dera because Asa had told him something. She said that one could obtain the power of break through death. Wasn't that something he had known too? He had even asked his demons. So why had they not told him? Tadera explained that he had already heard that from the village legend, though he did not know the exact details. But he knew that Yuru was a kind boy who would do anything for his sister. So if something happened to Asa, or if he felt that she was in danger, he would surely be ready to give his life to save her. But the certainty that he could cheat death even once would only push him further into risking his own life. And that kind of thinking was dangerous. Wright added that if he died, there was no guarantee that he would revive. Left asked whether he remembered what they had told him about the last Higashi village twins before them. The pair born 400 years ago. One of the twins had not revived. Asa and the others became worried when they heard that. Meanwhile, Asuma was merely listening in on their conversation with curiosity. Gonzu suddenly clapped and told them not to talk about complicated things while they were just standing there. They all looked at him. When the old man asked whether Yuru was hungry, Yuru realized that he was. He had not eaten anything since last night. So Gonzu suggested that they continue the conversation while they ate. He called the staff there and told them to tell the kitchen to prepare breakfast for them. They answered yes, sir. Gonzu told Tadera not to worry. They would not poison them. Tadera was fine with that. They went inside and looked for somewhere they could eat. However, they noticed that the Great Hall had been destroyed. Hagure asked his father whether he wanted him to clean it up. Hagure observed the situation and realized that it would take quite a lot of repairs. A few moments later, something white emerged from his left shoulder. Yuru and the others wondered about what he was doing. Hagure stretched out his hand and swept it away, as if erasing the mess. They were shocked when they suddenly could no longer see the damaged area. It had suddenly turned white, like snow. Then something black emerged from Hagure's right shoulder, and using his finger, he drew across it until the floor was restored to new. Their eyes widened because of what he had done. Hagure did not stop there. He did it again, this time to the shattered windows above. He repaired them, as well as the broken pillars there. When he had restored everything to the way it had been, he said that now they could eat breakfast. Yuru sat down and observed the floor, which had been broken apart just moments ago. He could not believe it had returned to normal. Tadera asked what was happening. Hagure introduced his demon pair, black and white. The one on the left was called White Out, and the other was ink. He could white out the spots that needed to be repaired, and then he could draw whatever he wanted over them using black ink. His demon pair spat. Because observation and imagination were important in using their power, that pair was the perfect partner for Hagure-sensei, Asa said. Yuru wondered why she was calling him sensei. Because of that, Hagure said that he was just a manga artist. And to clarify, he explained that his demon's spitting was one way for them to show affection. Yuru was impressed and said he knew that name. He had seen it in the credits of several movies as the original work's creator. Hagure thanked him for his support and said he would not be able to get by without the fans. He explained that Hagure was only his nom de plume. His real name was Hikaru Kagemori. Yuru became curious about what he meant by nom de plume, and Asa clarified that it meant pen name. Hagure explained that since their family was involved in shady stuff, he used a pen name so he would not get doxxed and cancelled. Tadera was amazed that that manga artist was actually a Kagemori. Hikaru insisted that there were 3 of them siblings. He was the eldest, Asuma was the middle child, and Jean was the baby of the family. Tadera and the others were greatly shocked that Jean was actually the youngest. Jean got annoyed and asked what they were trying to point out. Hagure smiled and said that, to be exact, they were half-brothers. Asuma insisted that as the eldest, Hagure would be the next family head. So if they got close to him now, they could make use of that later. Hagure denied it. He said he did not want to take over that crooked clan. He only wanted to live in peace while drawing happy comics. He did not want to be part of a world with rotten morals. Tadera told Gonzu that he had heard that the more depraved a creator was, the better their work turned out. Tadera pointed to the pillar and pointed out to Mr. Manga Artist that the corrections he had made to the room were black and white. There was no color. Would that not become a problem? He denied it. It would gradually absorb the colors around it over time, and eventually everything would return to its original palette. However, he noticed that the detail on that pillar was lacking. He had drawn it too cleanly. Because of how old the building was, the corners of the pillars should have been softer and more rounded. The edges were too crisp. He also looked at the mat and said that people were always coming in and out of that room, so the tatami should look more heavily used. There was no trace of use at all on that floor, so it did not really feel as if people were living in that space. Because of that, he said he should redo it. However, his brothers told him that they should eat first. The staff came out to serve their food. While they were preparing, Gonzu said that he did not care about the seating arrangements. They should sit wherever they wanted. He explained that they were only newcomers, not some prestigious old clan. They no longer needed to worry about who should sit where, maintaining traditions, etiquette, and all that stuffy nonsense. A sound like tiny people could be heard, and it turned out to be coming from what looked like little sumo wrestlers carrying cushions. One by one, they gave them places to sit, and the surprised Yuru thanked them. Several strange creatures also carried tea and other food. Right was shocked that even they were offered seats there. Left insisted that they did not eat human food. Gonzu insisted that they were still guests, and he treated all of his guests equally. When everyone had settled down to eat, Jin was the first to ask a question. He asked Dara how he had known that Yuru was there. Dara answered that he could not say, but Jin explained that he was asking because their manor had been attacked by several demons last night. Had he not been the one who sent them? Him and Higashi village. On the side, Hagure was saddened that their happy meal together had quickly turned into tension. Dara denied it and told him not to look at him. Why did Jin think he was the one who had attacked their headquarters? Jin answered that the timing of Yuru's visit, the raid, and Dara's arrival was far too convenient. And from what he had heard, the Tadera had a technique for getting past wards and barriers. Dara said that they only knew how to do that with their own barriers. Meanwhile, as Yuru ate the rice, Asa teared up upon seeing him. While sipping his soup, Dara said that what he wanted to know was about Asa. How was her life with the Kagemori? She answered that she did not need his concern. They gave her proper food and education. And while she was inside the manor, the assassins could not take her. So she was safe there. Although, intruders had indeed managed to get in today. Gabi also said that the moment they stepped out of the manor's gates, there was nothing to be found there but terrible people. The doctor, Sakurazawa, also said that they truly tried to reduce her outings as much as possible, but when there was something their infirmary could no longer handle, she had to go to a regular hospital. And in those situations, the guard accompanying her was never enough. Asa shared that she had also been hospitalized during the time she was abducted by the assassins from Higashi village. Dara wondered if she had some serious illness, and she answered that it was an ulcer. The stress had apparently been so severe because, non-stop, relentlessly, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, she was being hunted by agents of Higashi village, so it had literally burned a hole in her stomach. Once again, Dara insisted that he was not the one giving the orders. Asa added that, while they were already talking about it, could they not think even a little about the ordinary people in the hospital who also had to get dragged into their mess? She called them a public nuisance and told them to stop it already. But again, Dara said she was talking to the wrong person. He apologized and said that those radicals from Higashi village were the ones who truly had a lot to answer for. Then he suddenly asked her what she had done to register as a citizen there. He said it was truly difficult to go to the hospital without proof of insurance, and he had been thinking for a long time about what to do for Yuru. Also admitted that she was still not registered outside the mountain. Dara commented that that must be difficult. Asa continued and said that because her mother was originally from there, the plan had been to add her to her mother's family register, but someone attacked her parents, and they disappeared. Dara was greatly shocked when he heard that and asked whether their parents were missing. Yuru answered that that was what they had told him. Dara explained that, as they knew very well, he was an ally of Higashi village, but this was the first time he had heard about their parents' disappearance. All he could tell them was that, as far as he knew, he did not think it was the work of anyone from the Higashi village network. Gonzu asked whether he expected them to simply believe what he said. Dara said there was one thing he needed to make clear. He would face enemies who entered their territory, but he would not simply go looking for fights. He also did not get along with the radicals from Higashi village. As an example, he had come there unarmed and peacefully to take Yuru. Then he asked how they could be sure that the radicals from their own clan were not the ones responsible for that matter. He said he had heard whispers here and there that they were not exactly one whole united group with the same beliefs either. He asked Mr. Kagemori, as the head of the clan, what he truly wanted from the twins. Gonzu sipped his soup and said that the world sank into chaos whenever the twins who divided day and night were born. It would be better if Break and Seal no longer existed. In his opinion, it was time to end Higashi Village, whose sole purpose was to give birth to the ill-fated twins. By doing that, they would let the line end with Asa and Yuru as the final pair. He said that a cursed place was still trapped in the past. Bound by old-fashioned values, it continued clinging to its dream of conquering the world. Its era was over. As people who shared the village's blood, the least they could do was give it a proper burial. Someone raised a hand and said he disagreed. It was Asuma, who explained that he believed the chosen ones, those who bore those powers, had a duty to use them to peacefully govern the world. After all, powers like that were a kind of divine blessing. Dara asked whether he was implying that the Kagemori clan could control that power. Asuma did not deny it. Break, Seal, and their origin, Higashi Village, should remain. They should not deny their existence. However, in his opinion, it would be best for those things to be managed by a suitable organization. Because of what he said, the silence suddenly grew heavy and awkward. Yuru suddenly called his demons. When he asked them whether he and Asa were cursed children destined to throw the world into chaos, they quickly denied that idea. They told him that the people who wanted to manipulate their powers for their own purposes were the ones who started the fighting. A great weight was lifted from his chest when he heard them say, directly and without hesitation, that it was not their fault. That was when he learned that it was all right for them to live normally. So he thanked them for that. Afterward, he praised the one who had cooked the food. He suddenly pointed at Asa and said that she apologized for every little thing. Yes, he could not let her attack on the village slide, but she still apologized even for things that were not her fault. So he asked who had made her feel that kind of intense shame, who had convinced her that she was the one at fault. Why did she have to move through life in secret and live in hiding just because of a prophecy about her birth? Why should strangers have that much power over how she lived her life? If there really were factions inside the Kagemori clan, then everything they had discussed today would probably get out to the radicals or whoever else too. He called Dara and said that he wanted him to relay what he was about to say to his network in Higashi Village. He would not run, and he would not hide. He had no reason to move in secret. Higashi Village here, Kagemori clan there. He said all of it was annoying and confusing. Whoever wanted to take his head, let them come. He did not care whose side they were on, but he would drive every last one of them off, and afterward, he would squeeze them for every piece of information they had. They could quote him on that. Because of what was said, everything came to a halt. From the Kagemori clan head, Gonzu, down to his children, all of them froze. Haruo dropped the food he was eating, while Asa and Gabi remained silent. Meanwhile, the Kagemori staff could only sip their tea in stunned quiet. The one who broke the silence was Dara. Almost at the same time, Asa suddenly shouted and called him an idiot. As she stood up, Yuru instinctively stepped back, clearly not expecting that reaction. He asked why she was calling him an idiot, but she confronted him about what he had just said, that he would not run or hide. She told him not to be stupid, asking if he even understood why he should never say something like that. It was because he had never lived that kind of life. He had never experienced living every single day in fear for his own life, constantly targeted by countless assassins. She added that it was exactly the kind of life she never wanted for him. She urged him to run, to hide, and to value his life. Hagare then asked Jean if Yuru was the type who went all in, go big or go home, when it came to fights. Jean replied that it did seem that way. Asa then redirected her frustration toward Yuru's demons, telling them to talk some sense into him. After all, they were his guardians. According to right, as demons, they were bound to follow their master's orders. Left added that if chaos were to break out, they would have no choice but to defend themselves. Someone remarked that they even seemed to enjoy that. But for Gabi, it actually sounded like a good deal. Her older brother was offering to take on half of the burden she had been carrying alone for so long. Asa did not expect that. Right then commented that their master was kind. Yuru found that hard to believe. Asa lowered her head and said that she knew just how kind Yuru was, and then she began to cry. It was something Yuru never expected to see. Gonzo then called out to Yuru and asked if he would at least consider joining the Kagemori clan. He said Yuru would be safer there than outside, and they would provide anything he needed. but Yuru refused the offer. Gonzo could not believe that he would not even take time to think about it. Yuru explained that even if he called Higashi Village miserable, it was still the place where he was born and raised. He had friends there. He had his own way of thinking, and he understood it well, but whether he would accept that reality or not was a different matter entirely. Asuma simply listened in silence. Yuru added that he could never bring himself to make peace with the people who had done something like that to his home. He said he was grateful that they were searching for his parents, but they had to allow him to do things his own way. For now, he would cooperate with Dara so that he could personally search for his parents. Dara then honestly admitted that he would also prefer for the boy to stay far away from danger, but at the moment, he was Yuru's guardian. Because of that, it was his responsibility to keep him safe while respecting the way of life he had chosen. With that, he asked permission from Asa and Mr. Gonzu if they could take their leave. They closed their eyes and gave a small nod in agreement. Asa then knelt before the divine guardians, left and right, as well as Dara. She pleaded with them to keep her brother safe. They assured her that she could rely on them. Jean then said he would escort them to the gate. After a short while, they reached the farthest point where they could be accompanied, and Asa pointed out the limit of their barrier. Asa said her goodbyes and explained that those who desired the power of the break might already be waiting for him the moment he stepped outside that safe place. Because of that, she advised Yuru to be careful. Yuru paused at her words, unable to believe that he could not simply leave whenever he wanted. Even at the very end, it felt as if the manor had merely replaced his old cell. Suddenly, Asa remembered that there was something she wanted to show him. She took out her phone and revealed a photograph. It was a picture of their parents, taken before they disappeared. Yuru and even his pair of demons stared at it in amazement and asked if it was a painting. Asa replied that it was something like that, a highly realistic painting. She then pointed the camera at herself and Yuru and took a selfie. Afterward, she showed him the photo of the two of them together. Asa explained that this technology had the ability to capture and preserve an exact moment in time. Yuru said that he could not understand any of it, but all he could say was that he was deeply amazed. Asa took that opportunity to snap a picture of him while he was still confused. Even Wright was impressed. They said they also wanted to be included in the magic lantern painting together with Yuru, so they posed alongside him. However, Asa regretfully explained that demons did not appear in those images. After all, as Jean pointed out, they were spirits. Hearing that made them visibly disappointed. Still, Asa added that once in a blue moon, demons did show up in photos if the timing was just right, just like in paranormal shows. Yuru looked once more at the picture of their parents. He laughed, noticing that they were wearing clothes from that place, which felt strange to him. He said that it was the first time he had seen them in 10 years. That made him wonder where they might be now. For Asa, they were alive and well. She was certain of it. She said she would print the photo and give it to him next time. Yuru found that hard to believe. When Asa asked where he lived and whether he could give his address, Yuru paused to think. He said he was from Guntama Prefecture, but Asa did not know where that was. She grew frustrated, realizing she could not take advantage of his confusion to get his address. So instead, she turned to Dara and asked him. However, he replied that he could not simply hand over their location to the Kagemori side. Jean then said that he also wanted to keep Yuru updated regarding the search for their parents. It did not have to be a physical address. An email or phone number would be enough. But Dara still refused. He said he would not give any kind of personal information, no matter how insignificant it seemed, because it might be used to track them. Jean became annoyed at that, though Dara admitted they still needed some way to communicate. They started thinking of alternatives, carrier pigeons, radio, or even a message board at Shinjuku Station. Yuru suggested smoke signals, but all of them immediately said that would not work because of fire safety laws in the area. In the end, Jean simply took out a business card and said that if that was the case, they could just go there if they needed anything. When Dara read it, it turned out to be a girls' bar. Jean explained that it was one of their family businesses. If they mentioned his name, any message would be passed along to him. Because of that, he suggested they use that bar as their point of contact. Dara was pleased with that idea and responded with a quick Roger. In his mind, he was already thinking about having a drink there and putting it on a tab under his name. Jean, however, grew irritated, clearly aware of what he was thinking. They expressed their thanks once more advance gratitude for helping find the twins' parents, as well as for the delicious breakfast they had been served. As they were about to leave, Asa called out to Yuru again. She said that their parents had been completely heartbroken when they left him behind back then as they escaped. However, Granny Yamaha had intervened, leaving them with no other choice. It was the only way they could take to get him out of those mountains. What they had truly wanted was to leave as a family. So she told him not to think that they had abandoned him by choice, because they never wanted that. Yuru turned his head slightly, sadness clearly reflected in his eyes. Left and right simply watched him as he began walking away. With his back turned, Yuru raised his hand and waved, saying that it had been worth coming there just to hear that. He said they would see each other again. But as soon as they stepped outside, Jean and Haruo were startled when Asa suddenly ran past the barrier and rushed forward to hug her brother from behind. Yuru had not expected that at all. She gave him a light pat on the back and told him to stay safe, that they would meet again. Asa quickly returned to the gate, and they shut the doors behind her. The moment the gate fully closed, Yuru suddenly dropped to his knees on the ground. Dara became concerned and asked if he was alright. But Yuru said that he had been careless. He had allowed someone to sneak up on him from behind. If that had been a bear, he would have been dead. Dara was taken aback by that response. Still, Yuru slowly stood up and said that he could no longer deny it. She really was Asa. He remembered that she used to greet him the same way when they were children, tapping him on the back and telling him to stay safe. He could not stop his tears anymore. There was no doubt, the girl was real. She truly was his younger sister. His mind began to fill with countless questions. On the other side, Asa told Jean not to follow them or attempt anything of the sort. She said that trust was key. Jean agreed with her. As they waited inside, Gonzu remarked that the pair of demons, who, in truth, should have been in the hands of someone else to balance the power of the break and seal, the divine guardians left and right, had now ended up with the twin who would wield the power of the seal. If anything were to happen to the boy, Yuru, then nothing would be left to restrain him. There would be no telling what might happen. Asuma remained silent, simply listening, until suddenly, a butterfly appeared at his side. It fluttered into the air and began following Yuru and the others. As they walked outside, Dara said that now that they were in the big city, they should enjoy themselves first. It was time for a social studies lesson. The others were confused by what he meant. First, they boarded a yacht. They were delighted by the view from it, marveling at the towering buildings and bridges of the city. After that, they headed to a train station, where Dara taught Yuru how to buy a ticket. Yuru was startled when the train arrived, while left and right seemed to enjoy themselves as they perched on top of it. Not long after, they went to a racetrack. It seemed that Dara had placed a bet, as his emotions ran wild while the horses raced. When it was over, he dropped to his knees in despair over his losses. As they walked afterward, Yuru commented that the horses down at the foot of the mountain were large and incredibly fast. It seemed like you had to get used to them first before you could even ride them. He added that the horse that won first place looked beautiful, and he began to wonder how much it would cost to buy one. Dara immediately cut in, telling him not to even think about it. He would end up separating from Hana if he did. Still, Dara said he would buy Yuru anything he needed for daily life. Taking advantage of that, Yuru asked for a horse, and maybe even an ox. Dara replied that anything was fine, except animals. Yuru then added that aside from that, what he really needed were arrows. He had left his bow back at home, but he lacked arrows. Dara wondered where they could even get arrows in a place like this. Yuru said that he could make them himself, as long as he had the materials. Because of that, they headed straight to a massive department store. The moment they entered, Yuru was overwhelmed by its sheer size. He asked if everything inside was really for sale. Dara answered yes, then asked what he needed in order to make arrows. Yuru explained that he needed bamboo for the shafts, string, a small knife, and either iron or stone for the arrowheads. He added that antlers would also work. When Dara asked about the fletching, Yuru said that pheasant feathers, like the ones Dara had sold to him before, would be good enough. Then, out of curiosity, Yuru asked if they sold whole deer there. Dara looked confused and asked why. Yuru explained that the hide and innards could be boiled down to make glue. However, Dara immediately told him that if he tried something like that in an apartment, they would definitely receive complaints. The smell during the boiling stage would be unbearable, so he firmly told him not to do it. Instead, Dara simply grabbed some wood glue and told him to use that instead. Yuru was impressed, saying how convenient it was. When they reached the cashier, the attendant asked if they had found everything they needed. Yuru still could not get over everything the store had to offer. As they looked at the cashier, she suddenly froze. She stared blankly while scanning their items one by one. After they finished paying, she thanked them. However, she then closed her lane and asked her boss if she could take a break. She said she was seeing things. Her boss didn't believe her, told her to stop joking around, and ordered her back to work. At that moment, Right realized that the woman could actually see them, but according to Left, she did not seem to be a demon wielder. This made Yuru wonder if she was one of those people he had heard about, those who simply had an instinct for sensing them. Dara said that he had heard of cases where some people could see demons due to lack of sleep, and while they were there, he figured they might as well buy some clothes too. Yuru was startled by a mannequin and thought it was a scarecrow. He carefully observed its clothing and noticed how many pockets it had. Dara simply let him choose whatever he wanted. After a while, Yuru picked out a black outfit. He said it was a good color. Blood from enemies would be harder to spot on it. Dara could hardly believe that a teenage boy was thinking about blood spatter when making fashion choices. When Dara asked if he needed underwear, Yuru had no idea what that was. Dara explained that they were called boxers, an advanced version of a loincloth. But Yuru refused, saying he would just use what he already had. Dara then asked a staff member if they had any other types of underwear, but the answer was no. While observing the displays, Yuru suddenly realized something. Back when he lived in the mountains, he used to go hunting alone. There were times when he encountered bandits. They would come to kill him, and he would face them the way his father had taught him. After defeating them, he would either bury their bodies or let them be carried away by the river down the mountain. But even then, something had always felt off, and only now did he fully understand why. The bandits who attacked him were always too clean. People from the mountains, especially the older ones, always had dirt stuck in their nails and joints no matter how much they scrubbed. But those bandits had clean hands, like people who lived down below, like Dara. One of them had even been wearing boxers. Dara began to wonder if Yuru had been the real bandit, even going as far as stripping one of them. But Yuru clarified that the truth was, those were people from down below who had climbed the mountain specifically to kill him. Wright said that if even one villager tried to kill him, he would lose trust in all of them. Left added that maybe the plan was to make it seem like he had been forced to take the seal after being killed by an outsider, so they could keep him under control. Yuru admitted that it was still not certain that the villagers were behind it. But even if he wanted to, he could not fully trust them anymore. He remembered the girl he once thought was his sister and his friend Danji. He also recalled how Danji had once asked him why he kept going hunting alone, worrying that he might get into an accident in the mountains by himself. Dara then pointed out that only a few people actually knew the path into the barrier of Higashi village. Yuru responded that this made things easier. It narrowed down the list of suspects. Left asked if they were going to set a trap. Yuru agreed. It would be better if they made the first move. In hunting, victory goes to the group with the best position. Because of that, Yuru called out to Dara and said that someone was following them. Dara smiled and agreed. By his count, there were 3 of them. As they walked, Yuru counted the people tailing them and noted that they were taking turns following. Dara grew curious if they might be Kagemori goons, though he said he had expected those types to have a nastier streak. He warned them not to look back, and Yuru obeyed. But then Yuru suddenly remembered something. Earlier, he had said he did not want to leave any tracks, yet he had ended up being captured in the magic lantern painting with Asa. He wondered if that was no different from having wanted posters of him posted everywhere. Dara brushed it off. He explained that a mansion like that had countless hidden security cameras watching everything. Yuru had no idea what a camera was and imagined it as some kind of turtle. Dara added that he had already accepted that his identity would eventually be exposed the moment he decided to pass through the Kagemori compound. Meanwhile, back at the compound, Asa was quietly staring at the photo of her brother. She could not help but smile. However, she noticed that Dara was also in the picture, and, in her opinion, he ruined it. So she decided to remove him. She searched for her photo editing app, and with just a few taps, Dara disappeared from the image. At that moment, Jean suddenly asked from behind if she had managed to take a picture of Tadera. Asa denied it. Jean explained that Tadera was a person of interest to them. They needed to monitor his movements and share whatever little information they had with the entire clan. Jean then paused, recalling Yuru's earlier answer that there was nothing. He had assumed that Tadera might have photobombed the picture taken with her brother, so he thought he might have been captured in it. But once again, Asa insisted that he was not. Because of that, Jean turned to Haruo and instructed him to check the front cameras to see if there was any footage of Tadera. Asa then stated that she would take any footage they had of herself and Yuru, and that it would be for Yuru alone. As soon as they entered, they headed straight to the clinic. They began discussing the bearded man wearing a camo jacket. According to those who had been captured, his name was Akishima. The woman explained that he was the one who connected them to suspicious jobs, and it had worked the same way this time. He contacted them and said there was a job that would earn them a large amount. She showed Gonzo the call log, saying the call came in yesterday, around dawn. Another man added that he had been contacted at almost the same time. The woman assumed that he must have called anyone nearby who could show up immediately. As they said, none of those who answered the call knew each other beforehand. Haruo then realized that around that time, they had already been in the car, heading there after the earlier clash with Yuru. Asa checked as well, and it matched the timestamp of Jin's message to her. When Jean asked what time they had entered the manor, the man answered that it was around 1:30 in the morning, or just before 2 o'clock. According to Sakurazawa, that was also the time Jean had come to her to have his leg checked. Jean agreed. Gonzo then stated that the manor was protected by a barrier, and only authorized individuals or invited guests could pass through the gate at any time. He asked if someone had been stationed at the gate and whether they had been invited inside. The man replied that only Beardo, meaning Akishima, had been there. The woman added that the west gate had already been open, so they were able to enter without trouble. Her companion insisted the same. From their understanding, once they were inside, no one would notice them. After all, a few more demons would not seem suspicious, especially since Kagemori manors were already filled with them. Wait, Jean said, asking them to clarify which gate they had entered. The man answered that it was the west gate. Gonzo then stated firmly that there was no west gate in that compound. The captured pair were confused, insisting that there had to be one. But even Jean confirmed it. There was no west gate anywhere in the Kagemori compound. The entire west side was bordered by a solid white wall. The two exchanged uneasy glances. Gonzo then called out to Fuyuki, who simply responded, "Yes, sir." It turned out he was being summoned to use his demon to force them to tell the truth. From behind him, enormous hands emerged, each with an eye embedded in its palm. It seized the woman's demons. She panicked and demanded to know what they were doing to her partners. But Gabby calmly told her to relax. They were not going to kill them. A manuscript-shaped demon with a mouth began to speak. It declared that the pair were Korahinge fox and badger shapeshifters. Their current names were Akai and Midori. Their present master was Makoto Tachikawa, born May 4th, 1997. It continued, revealing that she was a college dropout, stating where she lived, mentioning that she had younger siblings, and even bringing up her parents' divorce. It added that her mother was currently undergoing medical treatment for an illness. With no job at present, she had accepted the offer in order to pay for her hospital bills. Makoto could not believe what she was hearing. Fuyuki quickly covered the demon's mouth. He apologized, saying he knew it was not nice to reveal a woman's personal information like that. From the side, Haruo commented that that goes for men too. Fuyuki then called the demon Whisper and asked it to zip its mouth for now. When it did, he opened the book and began reading what was written inside. The woman looked like she was about to cry, utterly shocked. Fuyuki then called out to Embrace, his demon shaped like 2 arms. He said they would move on to the next one. He released Makoto's demon pair and, this time, took hold of the smaller versions of the other person's demons. Since they were now under Asa's care, she asked him to be gentle with them. Fuyuki insisted that he was always gentle. It was then mentioned that they were yin-yang pair. They currently had no individual names, and their master at the moment was Asa. Their former master was Kenichi Hamura, born June 16, 1996. Kenichi was just as shocked that they knew so much about him. Fuyuki checked the records and noted that he had debts due to gambling. He then returned the demons to Asa and concluded that both of them were telling the truth. They were nothing more than random part-timers. The two were stunned and asked if he had ever heard of privacy laws. Fuyuki then introduced himself as Fuyuki Kuretani. He explained that his demon pair was called Blacklist. They had the ability to extract and record the personal information of their master, as well as the past and present condition of any demon they came into contact with. After the investigation, the clan head Gonzu said that he understood. They really were just part-timers with no connection to whoever had orchestrated the incident. He stood up and asked the two of them, if they needed money, why not work for them instead? They had not expected that at all. Makoto Tachikawa said he would be truly grateful for the job. Meanwhile, Kenichi Himura wondered if they were really just going to let them go so easily. Gonzu smiled and said that he would put them to work, so there was nothing to worry about. When Gonzu asked if Makoto's mother's hospital bills were high, he answered yes, explaining that her illness was no longer curable. Gonzu then offered to cover the entire amount needed so that her mother could rest and devote herself to her recovery. Makoto was stunned by the offer. She bowed deeply, expressing her overwhelming gratitude. When Kenichi asked if Gonzu would also cover his debts, Gonzu simply kicked him. He told him to work those off himself, slowly but surely. Their first task, he said, would be to help clean the manor. They immediately obeyed. After they left the clinic, Natsuki Kuroya asked Gonzu if he was really sure about letting them off that easily. Gonzu replied that it was fine. They already knew who they were and where they lived. They could make use of expendable personnel, so he intended to keep them around. Fuyuki Kuretani then asked what they should do with the other demon wielders they had captured. Gonzu instructed that those who had lost their demons should simply form contracts with whatever pairs became available next. After that, they were to use the blacklist to gather their information. And if, in the process, they discovered who was truly behind everything, then that person, and anyone connected to them, was to be killed. The two nodded and said they would take care of it. Back with the captured group, they had already begun working and cleaning the place. Kenichi Himura asked Asa if there was any chance she would return his demons to him. Asa looked at him and paused to think. She asked if he had already come up with names for them. He was caught off guard but suggested ohagi and daifuku, after traditional sweets. Hearing those names, Asa and Gabi struggled to hold back their laughter in front of him. Kenichi had not expected that reaction. He argued that there was nothing wrong with having a sweet tooth. Jean commented that no one would have guessed that someone with his brute appearance and attitude would come up with names like those. Gabi added that she doubted he even wanted to hear that from someone who had named his own demons Love and Sincerity. Curious, Kenichi asked what Gabi called her own. She answered with complete seriousness, Joe William Frederick Gabriel I and Kirk Douglas Aldglave Gabriel II. Kenichi couldn't help but comment that those names were way over the top. Because of that, her demons bit him, prompting Kenichi to immediately apologize over and over. Asa then asked the demon pair for their opinion. She observed that Kenichi seemed to regret what he had done and had even given them cute names. She asked if they wanted to return to him. Their reaction was unusual. Asa interpreted it as them not wanting to go back. Kenichi slumped in defeat upon hearing that. Gabi remarked that it was a nice try, but people do not change overnight. Asa added that she would watch over the two for now. Jean then told them to get back to work. Gabi asked if those two would not be a problem for the break, but Asa denied it. They seemed willing to behave for now. In that case, Gabi suggested, why not just become the master of the yin-yang pair for good? It would be better if more eyes were watching over her. Asa fell into thought at that idea, especially considering that there might still be enemies inside the manor. The scene then shifted to another place. A sign reading Studio Outsider was shown on the door of a room, with a warning posted outside that no one should disturb them. There was a meeting in progress. The person on the laptop said it had been a close call this time. The one inside admitted that he had panicked a little when his plans did not go as expected, and he apologized to Nakagami. It turned out that the one he was speaking to was Hagure. He added that he would fix things properly next time. Nakagami then asked what he meant by that. How exactly did he plan to handle things? Did he still need more people? If he was fine with run-of-the-mill part-timers, Nakagami said he could introduce plenty who were ready to move at a moment's notice. Hagure replied that he was already fine with the people he had. He said he had discovered that he could make use of Gabi and Asa. Nakagami asked if he really did not need any backup anymore. Hagure answered that he would handle things on his end. Still, He admitted that, to be honest, he had been certain he would miss his deadline this time. It had been the closest call of his entire career. First, his assistants had been disappearing one by one because of colds, and then he had lost his data. That had thrown him completely off schedule, and he had panicked badly. His editor, Nakagami, replied that she already knew. It really had been a close call. She herself had struggled and even pleaded with the printer. Hagure apologized again and said that next time, he would manage his time better. He also said he would not need to hire more assistants, since Gabi and Asa had been helping him lately with the finishing touches on his manuscripts. Nakagami then realized that those were the girls Hagure had been mentioning all this time. She asked if he was paying them properly, to which Hagure replied that of course he was. Nakagami then curiously asked why his office was so dark. It almost made him look like the mastermind behind some evil organization. Hagure answered that their house had been damaged, so they barely had any electricity at the moment. The scene shifted back to the department store, where Yuru was now hopping around, saying it was much easier to move with the shoes he had chosen compared to his old sandals. After finishing their shopping and stepping outside, Yuru said that the people following them were still there. Dara commented that simply changing clothes was not enough of a disguise. Yuru admitted that he already wanted to make a move. He mentioned his billhook, realizing he had taken it earlier without permission, and ended up leaving it behind at the Kagemori Manor. He apologized to Dara for that. Dara replied that they would have been dead if Yuru had started swinging that thing in the middle of the city, so it was actually better that he had forgotten it. If he really wanted a weapon, they could just stop by his place. He also wanted to pick up some weapons himself. Yuru asked if this pad of his was nearby. Dara answered that it was just a short walk from where they were. Wright then questioned whether they should not deal with the people tailing them first. Otherwise, those people would find out where Dara lived. But Dara said it was fine. He would let them keep following. He planned to abandon that place anyway, so he might as well make use of the situation for now. They casually walked into a series of narrow alleyways. Yuru remarked that it felt like a maze. Dara warned him not to stray too far, or he would get lost. Not long after, the people tailing them were shown, one of them making a call to report their movements. Soon, Dara and the others arrived at his place. As they entered, Yuru was visibly impressed. According to Dara, he was free to take whatever weapon he wanted. The place was filled with a wide display of firearms, blades, and more. Yuru picked up an axe, while Dara chose a gun. Wright then noticed that there seemed to be demons inside the place. Dara replied that he actually hoped so, which confused all three of them. Outside, the people keeping watch noticed the safe house of the Tadera clan. One of them suggested that they should not proceed any further and that it was time to head back. They could just pass the location along the chain. However, as the three of them were talking, someone suddenly asked if they were already leaving. He casually added that they could stay a bit longer and have some tea. They were completely caught off guard. In a panic, they quickly grabbed their weapons to fight, but they were disarmed effortlessly. Left and right restrained two of them, while Dara pointed a gun at the one wearing a scarf. Behind them, Yuru clicked his tongue in frustration, saying there was no time left for him to even act. The man did not surrender so easily and suddenly made a run for it. But the surroundings were instantly swallowed by smoke. When it cleared, everything had changed. They were now surrounded by mountains. The man was stunned, unable to understand how their location had shifted. Dara greeted him, saying, "Welcome to the lost house of the Tadera clan." He explained that they were only a paper-thin distance away from the world they came from, but he alone knew the way in and out. For first-timers who ended up there, there was no escape. If you made even a single mistake in the labyrinth-like paths, you would wander endlessly in that world until you died. Suddenly, the man stepped on a skull. Dara explained that it belonged to one of the Kagemori's men who had once followed him. They had thought they could track a member of the Tadera, but they ended up trapped there, dying of hunger. He added that there were many more corpses scattered around the area. So if the man did not want to end up like them, he had better start talking. Dara asked for his name and why they had been following them. With a gun pointed at him, the man had no choice. Wright suddenly said that he had been mentioning it for a while now. He could sense another demon. Dara replied that he already knew. According to him, the house they were in was actually a Tadera demon. That revelation shocked everyone, including the man they had captured. Dara explained that the demon pair could create lost houses, similar to phantom houses from legends. Just like Higashi Village, once you entered, it was incredibly difficult to get out. However, left and right clarified that this was not what they were referring to. There was another pair inside. Without warning, the man they had captured was struck in the face. A long arm lashed out at him with overwhelming force, slicing through him. Half of his head fell to the ground. The attack came from a bizarre creature lurking in the water nearby. It let out an eerie, unsettling sound as it rose. Wright observed it calmly, while the remaining captured man trembled in fear. Moments later, that man became the next target. This time, the creature used its leg, striking straight into his head and piercing through it, killing him instantly. The other creature positioned itself above the house. As the two strange beings drew closer, they laughed. They looked at Yuru's demon pair and recognized them as the divine Left and Right. Because of that, Left said it would be better if they took the old woman and retreated for now. Those two, she explained, were Tenaga Ashinaga, long arm and long leg. And beings like them were no match for that kind of demon pair. They woke up the old woman who had been following them earlier. Dara hit her on the head. He said the old woman had no more time to lie there unconscious. And because she still would not wake up, he used the gun to rouse her. That made her sit up, and she realized that Tadera was in front of her. Dara asked if she could move. He told her to get ready to run. The woman was shocked and looked around. She asked where they were now. When she noticed the demons on the roof of the house, she wondered what those things were. Yuru was curious and asked if those demons were not hers. He said they had killed her companions earlier. The old woman answered that she had no pals like that. She had never seen those demons before. Dara became irritated when he realized that those things had come there for another job. He wondered what their purpose was, and how had they gotten inside his lost house. But then he noticed that they knew Yuru's demon pair. Left explained that they had encountered them before. They had been causing trouble in the north back then. So with the help of a traveling monk and another person with the ability to seal, they managed to imprison them in Mount Yamo, known as the Mountain of Maladies. When Wright asked if they were not supposed to be sealed on Mount Yamo, they answered that yes, they were. However, they had found a fine master who kindly removed that seal for them just a few days ago. For the first time in 1,000 and many hundreds of years, they were finally free. They said that Left and Right owed them for what they had done back then. They called Left and Right mangy mutts. When asked what happened to the monk afterward, Wright said he had no idea, but based on what they had heard, maybe he was at Mount Koya. Dara asked if it was true that, according to the folktales, Long Arm and Long Leg destroyed fields with their huge feet and caused floods by scooping up lake water and throwing it everywhere. They firmly denied it and said the villagers had spread all kinds of lies while they were imprisoned. They angrily objected to the accusation, insisting that they had never done anything that terrible and even called it slander. However, they also admitted that from time to time they were able to eat a few pieces of human flesh, and they said they especially preferred the flesh of children. At that moment, they noticed that there was a child who looked delicious to eat, Yuru, although it seemed that he was already approaching the age where the flesh starts to toughen. Both of them also wanted to know who among those in front of them was the master of Left and Right. And if the two were already there, did that mean the twins had been born? Long Leg even mentioned that the one with the power to seal might be with them, and Long Arm immediately responded that they would no longer allow themselves to be sealed again. Yuru remained silent, while Dara glanced toward him. Suddenly, he shouted and called for Divine Left and Right and gave them an order. He told them to bring those two down. Right then asked why they should listen to him. Nevertheless, Dara pointed at him to indicate his intention. Right understood what he wanted to do, so he simply answered that he would comply, Master. Because of that, Long Leg and Long Arm thought that Dara was their master. They decided they would eat the brat later. For now, they would kill him first. So without wasting any time, they used their legs and arms to try to capture Dara. Left and Right immediately stepped in to block them. Right trapped the extremely long arms of one under his armpit and, using one hand, pulled it with all his strength. However, the enemy simply extended the trapped arm and suddenly grabbed Right by the head, then slammed him down to the ground. On the other side, Left blocked the long leg with his own leg. She avoided the attack and managed to punch the leg, but she was still knocked down. Dara joined the fight and fired a gun at one of their heads. When it was hit, Long Arm suddenly attacked him. Fortunately, Dara quickly bent backward and avoided the strike. Only his gun was hit, and it was split apart. Dara was shocked when he noticed what had happened to his weapon. Meanwhile, Long Arm curiously wondered if something had flown toward him. Right then charged at the other one. While they were on opposite sides, Right commented that just as he remembered, they were still incredibly twisty and slippery. The enemy noticed that the seal had not appeared yet, so it seemed it was not there. And since there was no seal, or even a monk present, they were confident they would win. They said this was about the power they could now use on their own. They had spent 1,200 years being cursed, and now Left and Right would suffer the weight of their anger. Both sides then prepared themselves to fight. Meanwhile, behind the scattered rocks, Dara ran at incredible speed. He said that those things were extremely freaky. When Yuru noticed him, he greeted him by saying good work for running away and not waiting for any cue. Yuru then asked if he was not hurt. He questioned why he lied and claimed to be the master of Left and Right. Because of that, he had become their giant target. Dara answered that it was because he was his guardian. Besides, his cute little sister had asked him to take care of him. Yuru insisted that there was no need for Left and Right to go along with that. He said he could fight on his own. The old woman was shocked upon hearing that they intended to fight Long Arm and Long Leg. She said they had gone mad. Dara had forgotten that the old woman was there. Suddenly, Yuru pointed his axe at her neck when Dara asked whether she belonged to the Kagemori clan or Higashi village. Because the battle nearby was intense, they said there was no time left for any song and dance. She needed to answer immediately. The woman admitted that she was from the Kagemori clan. From what Yuru had heard, there were also factions within that family, so he asked which one from Kagemori had hired her. When he aimed the axe at her head, she began to sweat from fear and admitted that it was the second son, Asuma. Yuru recalled that he was the one who said the break and the seal, along with its source, which was Higashi village, should remain. He believed it would be better if a proper organization were the one to oversee it. Yuru could not believe that it was him. The woman further explained that they were told not to harm him, especially the seal kid. They were also instructed not to follow him too far. She complained that they had gotten dragged into the conflict of the demon's divine Left and Right, along with whoever else was there. While they were talking, the butterflies appeared once again. Then, back at the Kagemori Manor, Asuma could be seen beside his demon pair, with butterflies surrounding them as well. He simply watched from his room. After hearing her explanation, Dara felt reassured. At least, in his view, she did not intend to kill them. If she could see the two over there, that meant she was also a demon wielder. The woman nodded and asked what of it. Dara insisted that she should fight as well. She should bring out her demons and join the battle. However, she said she could not. They had left them behind. Divine Left and Right would be able to sense their presence if they brought their demon pairs. They were the only ones who had followed them for now. Dara grew annoyed and questioned what use she was then. She mentioned that Yuru had already said they were inside his lost house. Could they not just leave Long Arm and Long Leg there and escape? But Dara replied that it was not possible. If those demons and their master knew how to enter and exit that place, then their situation would definitely be dangerous. Yuru then suggested that he would search for their master instead. If the priority of demon pairs was the safety of their master, then it made sense that the master would be somewhere nearby. That was right, Dara answered. Besides, those two were not expecting someone like a child. They would most likely lower their guard around him. Yuru then realized that because of that, he would be able to move freely. On top of that, they were already convinced that he was the master of Left and Right, so they would surely not pay him any attention. Now that the plan was set, Dara said that he and the Divine Guardians would keep Long Arm and Long Leg occupied. Yuru would be the one to find their boss. He agreed and called for the old woman. She could hardly believe it, but since she had no choice, she pulled out the weapons she had hidden in her clothes. Yuru was impressed at how many kitchen knives she had concealed. The old woman insisted that she would just clean things up quickly and then head home. She still needed to cook dinner for her husband. Dara could not help but think that housewives were truly terrifying. After a few moments, he ran toward the back of the house while the battle was still ongoing. In Dara's mind, he needed to reach his arsenal without being noticed. However, he did not expect to see Long Arm approaching him. He quickly dodged as it struck the place where he had been hiding. Because of the force, the concrete there was shattered. It did not stop pursuing Dara and repeatedly charged at him, forcing him to run in a hurry just to escape. When that was noticed, Right intervened and stepped on Long Arm. However, he was simply thrown into the air. They grew irritated and wondered just how far that thing could stretch. Dara felt dismayed seeing that his pad was already in ruins. Still, he was thankful because it gave him a shortcut to get inside and retrieve his stash. On the other side, the old woman searched while carrying her knives. She was on the hunt for the master of Long Arm and Long Leg. She wondered where he was and where he could be hiding. As she walked, she noticed a shadow behind a tree and rushed toward it. However, it turned out to be nothing more than a skull left behind. Yuru found the same thing. He recalled what Dara had said about bodies being scattered around, but he did not expect there to be that many. It would have been easier to find that person if he had been throwing daggers at him. He looked around, wondering where their master was. Meanwhile, Long Leg and Long Arm had already wrapped their entire bodies around left and right so they could no longer move. But no matter how tightly they constricted them, they could not kill them. The two grew annoyed, saying they were still as hard as stone. Perhaps they should kill their master first. The other thought that was a good idea. They could also just leave them to die slowly in suffering, as stray demons trapped inside that lost house. Honestly, he found that idea appealing. Suddenly, a bullet struck one of its eyes. Long Arm was alarmed by it and asked what that was and what was going on. He himself did not understand what was happening. It came from Dara's gun. He was camouflaged on the ground while using his sniper. He was pleased that his plan had worked. They had never seen a weapon like that before, since they had been sealed in the mountains for a very long time. Dara did not know how many curses they had accumulated, but he said there was one curse meant for them, that modern technology could bring them down. And since they were causing chaos on his turf, they should not expect to freely do whatever they wanted there. He kept firing at their bodies. The two of them became confused about what was happening. Dara hit their legs and heads. He targeted another eye of Long Leg, making them question what exactly was flying toward them and where it was coming from. Because they were distracted by Dara's gunfire, their grip on left and right loosened. Left and right seized that chance, grabbing their arms and legs and throwing them with full force. They called out to each other and coordinated, crashing the two together midair. Their bodies spun wildly, and they grew irritated, calling them bastards. But only for a moment. Driven by intense anger, they managed to fix their form and prepared to retaliate. They transformed into something like a massive creature. Hidden in the grass, Dara became alarmed. If they were that high up, they would surely spot him. One of the enemies laughed and said they had already seen him, but what they actually meant was the old woman hiding behind a bush. Using its long arm, it grabbed her. They said she might be old, but she would do. A woman's flesh was more tender than a man's and delicious on its own. She would be the food they needed to recover. Long Arm even let Long Leg take the first bite. However, before she could be bitten, the old woman told them to wait. She said the brat she was with was far more delicious. She added that he was the twin who could claim the seal. Dara was irritated when he realized she had revealed their secret. The old woman insisted that it would be better for them to eat that child instead of her. The two paused and considered her words. So the one who could take the seal was right there, the brat who could claim its power. In the old woman's mind, she thought that was right. They should turn their attention to that child. The moment they loosened their grip on her, she would slice their tendons. However, they tightened their hold on her even more. Even so, they still needed nutrients to heal their wounds. Slowly, they began crushing her body, when suddenly, an axe landed on its arm. Because of that, they released the woman. Yuru had thrown it and told them to leave her alone. Fortunately, Wright managed to catch the woman. Yuru explained that she had a family waiting for her at home. He then introduced himself as one of the twins who divided light and darkness. He also declared that he was the true master of divine left and right. And so, if they had anything to say, he would be the one to hear it. Long Leg and Long Arm questioned what he had said, asking if that meant this brat was not only one of the twins of legend, but also the true master of left and right. Long Arm pointed out that the old woman had told them he could take the seal, which Long Leg agreed with, saying that he had not yet claimed the power for himself. Long Arm then wondered what they should do, because if they killed the brat, he would be able to claim the seal, and they could not bear being sealed away again. After that, he made a decision, and that was to kill Yuru and then kill him again the moment he came back to life. Long Leg pointed out to him that left and right whom they called mangy mutts, would never simply stand by and watch them kill their master, which Long Arm agreed with. Yuru called left and right and told them not to interfere, which greatly shocked the two. He clarified that he did not want them to touch those two until he gave the go signal, and that this job would be his. Left and right stared at him after that, but quickly gave their full support to what he wanted. Tenaga Ashinaga also stared at him in a daze, then grinned at his decision. They suddenly sent a long hand thrust toward Yuru, which he managed to dodge by dashing backward. They tried to send another strike at him, but he jumped onto the firewall of the house. The two did not stop their attack and continued sending slams, which Yuru dodged by tumbling across the top of the wall. While this battle was happening, right and left did not move from where they stood and simply watched the scene. Long Arm laughed at them and pointed out that they were truly obeying their master's command to stay there, while calling them mongrels. Long Leg commented that they were very disciplined dogs. Long Arm tried once again to catch Yuru, and Long Leg followed that by kicking the ground hard, causing large parts of it to scatter. Fortunately, Yuru jumped before Long Arm's thrust strike could reach him, but he did not expect the force of Long Leg's kick, which caused a large part of the ground to break apart. Trees were sent flying there, causing Yuru to stumble and scrape his face against the ground. He anxiously asked how that leg guy could still move like that even though they had already taken away his eyes. They explained that they were kindred souls, united in heart and mind. Long Leg pointed out that Long Arm would be his eyes and see for him when he could not, while Long Arm said that Long Leg would take him where he wanted to go when his legs could no longer carry him. Then they said in unison that only together were they complete, and proudly revealed the true form of Tenaga Ashinaga. On Dera's side, while targeting that demon pair, he cursed in frustration and commented inwardly that they made one huge target, but they were so squirmy and fast that he had no chance to line up a good shot. We then returned to Yuru's situation, where he ducked while running to avoid Long Arm's deadly claw, but the corpse beside the tree that it struck was not so lucky. Long Arm then caught the flying head of the corpse he had struck and threw it straight toward Dera, catching him off guard. Because of that, Dera was forced to dodge and lost his focus on targeting the demons. Long Arm and Long Leg told him that they could see him there, and pointed out that they would devour him with relish once they finished with the boy, ordering him to wait his turn. After that, Long Arm turned his attention back to Yuru and tried to crush him again, but failed. As Yuru continued running away from the non-stop barrage of that demon, nervousness was clear on his face. He tried to hide at the side of Dera's house, which irritated Long Arm. He then caught his breath and slowly peeked out from the corner of the house, but the demons immediately spotted him and tried to punch him again, prompting him to jump away. However, it seemed that he had planned this from the beginning, and to him, he had caught them right where he wanted them. But that was quickly brushed off when Long Arm suddenly pulled a massive tree out of the ground, which completely baffled Yuru. His eyes widened in shock, and Long Arm quickly tried to slam the giant tree toward him, prompting Right to call his name in alarm. The two demons laughed at Yuru, who was now lying unconscious on the ground beside the tree. Long Arm bent toward him and asked his partner how they should kill him, suggesting that they should rip off his left arm first. At the side, Left seemingly did not care about what was happening, while the old lady took out a kitchen knife and prepared to fight. Long Leg then suggested that perhaps they should tear out Yuru's tongue before he could summon his dogs to help him, then laughed at his own joke. However, to their surprise, Yuru opened his eyes and placed his open hand in front of Long Arm's face. That sent chills through the demon pair, and they wondered if that boy had already claimed the power of Seal. Yuru also thought that, come to think of it, Dera had lied and declared himself the master of left and right as well. He suddenly closed his hand, prompting Long Arm to raise his hands in fear while wondering if they had been tricked into believing that the boy could not yet use Seal to ensure their defeat. After that, Yuru explained that the fact that the idea had entered their heads and had stopped their hands and legs even for a split second meant they had struck pay dirt. Long Arm was shocked by this, while Yuru added that the Divine Guardians would not pass up an opening like that. He said that he was done and left and right to do their part. That turned out to be the signal he had been talking about, and in that brief moment, right and left were already behind Long Arm and Long Leg, ready to attack in their monster forms. Both of them went for Long Arm, with Left choking him with her arm while Right grabbed him by the body. Left pointed out Long Arm's gall and asked how he dared harm their master. He was sent flying and fell by the riverside, and before he could return to the surface, Left pinned him down while in her stone statue formed to drown him. He tried to break free and shouted, but he could not, so he could only think for Long Leg to help him. As he was drowning, Long Arm anxiously asked where he was. He told him to answer because he could not see and had been blinded, then asked what was happening. Long Arm weakly tried to reach for Long Leg while telling him that he was right there, but just as he was about to reach his back, Right bit his arm, which made him even more alarmed. Right pulled him away so he could not reach his partner, and after a few moments of struggling, Long Arm completely lost consciousness and his hand collapsed to the ground. Long Leg heard what had happened, so he turned and asked if that was Long Arm. In an instant, a large part of his neck was pierced through, which was Dera's doing once he finally got a clear angle. Dera let out a sigh of relief after doing that, while Long Leg's body completely collapsed to the ground. He approached it as it slowly disappeared, and what appeared to be two tied-together feet of a monstrous creature emerged from it, while Left rose from the river holding tied-together hands. She commented that those were most likely the relics of these demons. She said that they were steeped in power, and if Long Arm and Long Leg had only used their strength for good, they might have become gods of some renown, but she said that it was a shame. Right went to Yuru's side and asked if he was all right, to which Yuru answered while coughing that he was, somehow. Right smiled at him and praised him, saying that his bluff had been convincing, which Yuru agreed with. Yuru explained that Asa seemed to clench her fist before opening it when she used break, so he figured Seal might be the opposite, and when he tried those gestures, it turned out that he was right. He pointed out that the demons had been shaken even more than he expected, which made Dera comment that if that power could instantly take down a monster as formidable as that, then it was only natural for them to tremble in fear. Yuru then asked if that meant Seal was a dangerous kind of power. Right remarked that what he had done was extremely reckless, for a flesh-and-blood human to face Tenaga Ashinaga without Seal. So Yuru scratched his head as he explained that he knew he had no chance of defeating them, but he figured he could manage by dodging and running. Right then asked if he was correct in thinking that fleeing was not the only thing on his mind, to which Yuru answered no and pointed out that, just as he had said, he had something he needed to do. On the other side, the insect that had been following them flew away, but Left immediately crushed it. She looked at it and pointed out that this was the demon they had been sensing ever since they left the gates of the Kagemori compound. She commented that its presence had been too faint to track. Yuru then asked if the humans tailing them had only been a distraction, to which Dera said that the butterfly had actually been the real watcher all along. The housewife then recognized it as Asuma's demon, or more precisely, a piece of its body. Destroying one of those butterflies, she added, would not accomplish anything. While that was happening, the scene shifted to the Kagemori compound, where Asuma's demon informed him that they had been caught. However, he added that they now knew the route to Dera's safe house and should be able to recover the remains of their people who had been lost. Asuma looked at it and thanked it, calling it Asagiri. The scene then quickly returned to Dera's place, where the damage caused by Tenaga Ashinaga's attack was clearly visible. Yuru went to a certain part of the house and explained that while he had been running around earlier, he noticed that once he reached that spot, Tenaga Ashinaga's attacks had stopped. He then looked beneath where he was sitting and saw someone there, so he shouted that he had caught the master of Tenaga Ashinaga. He ordered the person to come out of hiding, and the mysterious individual responded in a frightened voice, asking if they were going to kill him, which shocked Dera. Dera noticed that the voice definitely sounded young and asked if it was just a kid, while Yuru answered that whether they would kill him or not would depend on what he had to say. Because of that, the housewife was left stunned and commented inwardly that he did not have a shred of mercy, and it was hard to believe he was a child as well. Not long after, the master of Tenaga Ashinaga revealed himself and surrendered, saying that he would tell them anything and everything they wanted to know and pleading for his life. Dera was shocked to realize that he really was just a child, while Yuru asked if he was the master of Tenaga Ashinaga, which the boy confirmed. After that, Dera asked who the boy was and what he was doing there, so the boy introduced himself as Ken Tadera and explained that he was there because he had heard that the house belonged to his father. The group then turned to Dera with wide eyes, filled with shock and disbelief, and Dera asked Kin what he had just said. After that, they returned to their apartment and informed Hana that they were back. Hana quickly opened the door and asked Yuru if he was all right, and if he was hurt in a very worried tone, to which Yuru replied in surprise that it was nothing. He apologized for leaving without telling anyone, while Hana exclaimed that he had scared her out of her mind and thanked goodness he was safe, feeling immense relief. Yuru commented inwardly that she must have been really worried about him, while Hana repeatedly thanked goodness that he was safe. Yuru apologized again while thinking that Hana truly was a good person, but in Hana's mind, she was thanking goodness because they would not have to pay massive hospital bills. As they entered the apartment, Dera said that he had already spoken with the Kagemori head, and as it stood, Yuru would remain under their care. Hana said that when he left to go to the Kagemori, she had not expected him to come back in one piece. Dera, sounding exhausted, said that it was a long story and that he would explain it later, asking her to let him rest for now. After setting down their belongings, one of the plastic bags fell over and 2 cards slipped out. Hana picked them up and saw that one was related to gambling, while the other was about fooling around with women, which left her speechless. Kin then appeared and greeted her. He thanked her for taking him in and introduced himself, which left Hana even more stunned as she wondered if he was some kind of secret love child. She then asked what Dera's total asset value was, which shocked Dera as he realized she was already calculating a divorce settlement. He explained that he was broke but owned land and a house, although in truth, it was a Tadera demon pair, so he could not use it for alimony. Hana dropped to her knees in disappointment, unable to believe that there were demons that required property taxes. After that, Dera clarified that he thought Hana had the wrong idea and that Kin was not his son. Kin then said that he was the son of the former Tadera clan head, while Dera added that he had only recently learned that the boy even existed. Hana fell silent once more and asked for a moment, then questioned if that meant Dera and the boy were brothers, to which Dera, equally shaken, answered yes, if what the boy was saying was true. He then explained that 10 years ago, when Yuru's parents fled the village, it seemed that the former head of the Tadera had secretly helped them in some unusual way. After that, he added that the boy had intel regarding Yuru's parents. After that, Hana introduced herself and explained that she was a Higashi village retainer, or basically an odd jobber living down the mountain with her lil fur babies. Then all of a sudden, she was forced to marry Dera, the guy she worked with who was kind of her boss. But she said that the only space in her heart was supposed to be for Jason Statham. As if the situation was not already bad enough, he even brought home a young boy carrying some serious baggage. And once things had finally settled down, she discovered the gambling, the screwing around, the completely worthless real estate, and worst of all, the secret love child of her new hubby. After that, she declared that this was where her shocking, unpredictable, and heart-pounding newlywed life truly began. Not long after, they sat down on the floor to talk about Kin's sudden arrival at their apartment. Dera nervously explained that he had already told Hana that Kin was not his son. The scene then shifted back to the time when they were still at Dera's storage house, where Dera questioned Kin's statement that the house belonged to his father, while Kin simply stared back at him with a look that clearly confirmed it. Yuru then asked if that meant the boy was his son, prompting Dera to stop him and tell him to calm down first. He tried to explain that he did not know the first thing about the kid, but paused for a moment to think before continuing and loudly insisting that he truly knew absolutely nothing about the boy, causing the woman with them to ask why he suddenly hesitated earlier. After that, Dera asked Kin what his mother's name was, and Kin answered Abiba Tesfaye, prompting Dera to ask if she was a foreigner. Kin answered that she was Ethiopian, which completely confused Yuru, while Dera became confident and declared that he could say with certainty that he had never met that woman before and that Kin was not his son. Kin then asked if he was correct that he was Mr. Ryu Tadera and explained that his father had told him about him. He then informed him that he was Kin Tadera, the son of Rue Tadera, which immediately caught Dera's attention. Yuru thought about the name and tried to remember where he had heard it before, so Dera pointed out that it was his old man. He explained that he had been the previous head of the Tadera clan, and when Dera was little, he still frequently traveled back and forth to Higashi village. Just as Dera was about to say that was probably why he remembered the name, he suddenly realized what it implied, causing him to ask in complete shock if Ken was really his old man's son. He then asked how old Ken was, and Ken answered that he was 13, making Dara blurt out that there was a 22-year age gap. Wright grinned and commented that if that was the case, then they were long-lost half-brothers, while Left, with her eyes widened, declared that this was a touching reunion. While feeling warm and fuzzy inside, Yuru commented that it was good for Dara because he had gained a family member, but Dara shouted in utter shock that this was not that kind of heartwarming twist. After that, Ken explained that while he was hiding, he overheard their conversation and asked if he was right that the older boy, Yuru, was the twin from Higashi Village. He pointed out that his father had told him that Yuru was the son of Mr. Mine and Miss Nagisa, which immediately caught Yuru's attention and prompted him to ask if he knew anything about his parents. Ken agreed, but added that that was not all. He informed them that his father was the one who taught them the route through the village barrier. That immediately shocked Dara, who loudly told everyone to hold on for a second because even his own father had never said a word to him about something like that. While Yuru asked if it was really true, Yuru suddenly raised his axe in front of Ken's face and asked where his mother and father were now, desperately pleading for him to tell him, which terrified Ken to the core and made him scream for forgiveness. The woman commented that this was not a good look for Dara and pointed out that if his father had done that and the twins' parents ended up going to the Kagemori clan, then would the village not assume that the Tadera were Kagemori spies, which immediately caught Dara's attention. Just as Ken was about to explain, the woman stopped him and explained that she did not want to hear another word about any of that because it was none of her business. She pointed out that they had saved her life, so she would pretend she had not heard anything. She even said that she would do them the favor of not reporting it to Asuma or telling anyone else so it would not make its way back to Higashi Village, which made Dara nervously tell her that he greatly appreciated it. After that, she asked if they could let her go home already. So Dara explained that if Asuma's demon had already gotten in there, then the secret route at the back had already been exposed, which meant the place was useless now. He added that he did not see any point in killing one of the people tailing them after everything that had happened, then asked Yuru what he wanted to do, to which Yuru responded by asking what he meant. Yuru tried to call the woman an old bag, but immediately took it back and just addressed her as lady instead, then explained that she was the one who exposed him to Tenaga Ashinaga, which made him remember the incident. After that, Yuru casually remarked that he was fine with letting her go and said that she did not seem like she wanted to kill him anyway, causing the woman to think to herself while sweating that he judged people solely based on whether or not they intended to kill him, then commented that the boy's defenses had way too many holes. Yuru then asked the woman if her husband worked in the same line of business, to which she answered no and explained that he was just a simple civil servant who knew nothing about this kind of work. Yuru questioned Dara on whether it was really safe to let the woman go, and Dara answered that he was fine with it if Yuru was fine with it, while the woman let out a sigh and said that she owed them one. She looked over at one of the corpses nearby and commented that so that was what happened to all the Kagemori agents who disappeared after tailing a Tadera, then added that it was definitely not the way she wanted to die. After that, she asked Dara if, before she left, he could allow her to bury the two companions who had been assigned to tail him. She explained that neither of them had any family who could give them a proper funeral. Dara agreed and told her she could bury them wherever she wanted, while Yuru decided to help as well. The woman pointed out that he could threaten to kill people without even blinking, but then suddenly turn around and help bury his enemies, then commented that his sense of ethics was all over the place, which only confused Yuru. Yuru explained that bodies had to be buried because otherwise there was a risk of plague, and pointed out that something like that could wipe out an entire village. Because of that, the woman realized that it was simply the kind of life people in the village were raised with, while Yuru added that the sooner she got home, the sooner he would get to hear what Ken knew. After that, he instructed the Divine Guardians to help them. Wright dug a hole afterward, then asked Yuru if it was deep enough for him, while Yuru stared in shock after seeing him dig using only his bare hands and commented that it looked like they no longer needed a shovel. Ken then caught Dara's attention when he tried to call him Big Brother, but Dara immediately cut him off and instructed him to just call him Ryu instead, which Ken respectfully did. Ken thanked them for stopping Tenaga Ashinaga, which made Dara stare at him. Dara and the old woman then entered his house, and when he opened the door again, the woman was shocked to realize they were already back in town. He explained that she had returned to the regular world now, then asked if it was correct that she could make it home on her own from there, which the woman confirmed. Dera then said goodbye to her and casually told her to tell Asuma Kagemori that he said hi before finally shutting the door. After that, he returned to the space where Yuru and the others were and commented that he was starting to think it was time for him to quit this kind of racket. He then approached Kin and told him that it was time for him to tell them everything he knew. Kin began by clarifying that he did not know where Yuru's parents currently were, which made Yuru quietly close his eyes. Kin added that he also did not know where his own father was, causing Dera to remark that who even knew whether the previous head was still alive at this point. That shocked Kin, who questioned how Dera could be the current head while still not knowing where his father was, to which Dera answered that he had absolutely no idea. Yuru then pointed out to Dera that he always referred to him as the previous head, so he assumed the man had already passed away, prompting Dera to clarify that he never once said he was dead. Since they were already on the topic, Dera added that he might have already told them that the demon pair belonged to the Tadera clan, but he never said they belonged to him personally. He explained that the previous Tadera head was their actual master, and that the man had simply disappeared somewhere without ever passing them down to him. Yuru realized something after hearing that and commented that it explained why the pair had not reacted when they were in danger earlier, because normally, demon pairs would defend their master. Kin then informed them that his father had taught him many things about demons. In case he ever needed to know those things, his father apparently told him that he would suddenly show up at his mother's place from time to time, then disappear just as suddenly afterward, before Kin commented that that was simply the kind of father the man was, which made Dera nod in agreement while saying that it really did sound like his old man. He explained that his mother had only recently passed away. He was unable to contact his father, and he only found out about it while he was alone. He thought that he would not be able to survive on his own unless he became stronger, so he decided to start by obtaining a powerful demon pair. He explained that he tracked down the sealed Tenaga Ashinaga and formed a contract with them, but later discovered that they were extremely evil. He added that they did not harm him as their master, but neither did they obey a single word he said, and he knew he could not allow them to roam free in the world. Because of that, Dera realized that was the reason Kin decided to imprison them inside the lost house, which Kin confirmed while explaining that his father was the one who taught him how to enter and leave the place. After that, Dera explained to him that he took over the previous head's duties 10 years ago, around the same time Yuru's parents fled the village. He added that his father suddenly announced that he was entrusting all of the Tadera responsibilities to him, then simply left, and from that moment onward, he had not heard a single thing from him ever again. Dera started getting angry at their father and realized that the man probably knew he would be in trouble if any incriminating information ever came to light. So he dumped the entire family responsibility onto him and immediately ran away, while also realizing that Kin had already been born by that point. Kin explained that their father rarely talked about his work, but whenever he got drunk, he would start complaining. He then asked if they knew how Miss Nagisa learned about the world below the mountain, and explained that it was through that he realized their father was also someone from the modern world. Because of her relentless pestering, or rather, blackmail, it seemed that she forced their father into teaching her the way out. He added that the man would often bitterly say that the woman was a tiger hiding beneath the appearance of a sheep, which shocked Yuru and prompted him to praise his mother in a baffled tone. After that, Kin explained that their father did not agree with Higashi village's customs regarding the twins, but the only thing he actually did was teach Yuru's parents how to escape, and he did not help them in any other way. Even so, he added that it did not change the fact that he had defied the village, but because he had been enemies with the Kagemori clan for such a long time, he also could not approach them either, so Kin believed he had no choice but to completely withdraw from that world. After that, the scene returned to the time when they were already at the apartment. There, Hana asked if she understood everything correctly, that Yuru used the abilities of the Divine Guardians to search for his twin sister in hopes of finding their parents, which eventually led him to the Kagemori compound, where they fought off a third party that nearly abducted both twins, and after that, they spoke with the head of the Kagemori clan, and then, on the way home, Dera gambled, screwed around, and even brought home a secret child carrying information about Yuru's parents. Dara immediately clarified that the screwing around and secret child parts were misunderstandings, but Hana pointed out that he was not denying the gambling, causing Dara to admit that he was not denying that part. Dara explained that the previous head never once told him that a child like Ken existed, and said that did not automatically mean he was some illegitimate child. However, Yuru suddenly chimed in and commented that if that was the case, then maybe he was the child of a mistress, prompting Dara to scold him and tell him to watch his mouth. Dara explained that his parents had already been divorced for a very long time, and that Ken's mother was most likely his father's legal wife, then added that nobody had the right to judge. At that point, Yuru interrupted again, and Dara continued by saying that he believed their family should temporarily take Ken in, which made Hana loudly exclaim that she knew this was going to happen. Dara pointed out that the poor kid had nowhere to go, and asked if she did not feel sorry for him. But Hana answered that she had already said she hated kids and told him not to try forcing her to take care of another one like it was no big deal. That clearly caught Yuru's attention, and he commented that more hands meant better results. According to the saying, the young were treasures. Hana then pointed out that in the modern world, declining birth rates were becoming more common, and added that child labor was wrong. First of all, she said that they still did not know whether Ken could truly be trusted, causing Yuru to answer that there was no problem there because he could not sense any hostility coming from him, which made Hana comment that he seriously needed to stop categorizing people based on such random things. Hana then decided to give Yuru an example, and as soon as she stood up, she suddenly locked him into a tight headlock, immediately catching the attention of Yuru as well as left and right. She explained that at that moment, she had absolutely no intention of hurting or killing him, but asked what he would do if she suddenly changed her mind and actually tried to kill him next time. That immediately left Yuru visibly shaken. Dara then told Hana, while calling her Hun, that there was to be no domestic violence, causing her to immediately stop and comply. Hana then asked Yuru if he understood now, while Yuru still looked completely stunned by what had just happened. Dara then jokingly commented that out of everyone in their house, Hana was the scariest person when she got angry, which irritated Hana as she asked why he always kept provoking her then. When they looked over at Ken, they could clearly see the fear on his face as he asked if everyone connected to Higashi Village was really like what he was seeing there, causing Hana to turn serious as she admitted that she could not believe she was about to say this. But there was apparently no such thing as a normal person connected to Higashi Village, which only frightened him even more. After that, Wright commented that if by some chance the boy truly had bad intentions, they still had strength in numbers, so he would not pose any threat, but Hana still answered with a doubtful even so. Not long after, Ken pulled something out from inside his jacket pocket and explained that his mother had prepared it for him. He handed it over to Hana and asked them to use it for his living expenses, and Hana noticed that it was a bank book. Yuru then asked what that was, prompting Hana to explain that it was basically a ledger used to keep track of his gold. Hana exclaimed in shock and commented that the last entry in it looked incredibly old, and there was no way to tell how much money was still left in that account anymore. After that, she instructed Dara to get the bank book updated, which he immediately agreed to do. She also asked him to buy dinner while he was out, which he once again agreed to without hesitation. Yuru commented inwardly that somewhere along the line, the power dynamic between senior and junior had completely flipped. After a while at the bank, Dara returned and told Hana that he still believed they should be the ones to take care of and adopt Ken. Hana became confused as Dara showed her the bank book. Hana's expression suddenly changed into a calm, yet visibly shocked look. She then called Ken over and asked if he was a registered citizen, to which he answered yes, and explained that he had Japanese citizenship. Hana immediately welcomed Ken warmly and told him he could stay for as long as he wanted, her irritated expression instantly transforming into a sweet smile, which moved Ken to tears as he thanked her. Hana was left speechless by the amount of money Ken had and commented that no child should be allowed to walk around carrying a bank book like that, while Dara pointed out that the same thing could be said about the account balance itself. He also pointed something else out and said that he believed the monthly deposits were meant for child support. Hana commented in admiration that their father sounded like a principled and respectable man, but Dara strongly disagreed and pointed out that the man had never treated him that way. He also pointed out that there had even been a deposit made fairly recently, which meant that their previous head was still alive and well. Ken excitedly exclaimed that it was wonderful news, while Yuru immediately suggested that they all go find him, but Dera added that there was one problem. He then asked Ken if he had any picture of their father, but Ken answered that he did not because the man never allowed anyone to take photos of him. Dera then insisted that this was exactly what he had been saying all along, because even he himself did not have a single picture of the man's face, while Hannah questioned how they were even supposed to ask around for information without any visual reference. She added that considering the kind of person they were talking about, the man was probably using different aliases everywhere he went, while Dera said they could try using Ken's mother's connections. However, Ken refused and explained that his mother used to work at a bar in Katsushika, Tokyo, and after she passed away, he asked all of her friends if they knew where his father was. Before he could continue, Dera interrupted him and asked if his guess was correct that none of them knew anything either, which Ken sadly confirmed. That irritated Dera, causing him to comment that the man truly was impossible to catch, to the point that even the Kagemori could not track him down. After that, Dera simply brushed it off and said they would just have to be crafty and extract information from the Higashi village camp in a roundabout way, but Hannah replied that she would rather stay out of that and leave him to handle it himself. Afterward, they told Yuru and Ken that the adults would handle the rest, and that they should go take baths and get some sleep. Yuru, who had grown up in the mountains where water was precious, did exactly that. But while sitting inside the bathtub, he thought to himself that it was far too luxurious for him and questioned whether it was really alright to waste that much hot water on a bath, commenting that it felt wrong. Later, while they were lying down on their futons, Ken asked Yuru if he was really sure he wanted to sleep on the flatter bedding. So Yuru explained that he could not sleep properly on bedding from the modern world because it was too soft, while Ken said that as someone merely freeloading in the house, he felt bad sleeping on a nicer futon than Yuru's. Yuru denied that and explained that he was part of Dera's clan, so he was practically family too, meaning Ken should just enjoy it, which Ken agreed with. Not long after, Ken said that he hoped he would be able to see his father soon, which Yuru agreed with as Ken added that he needed to tell him about his mother's death. Yuru then closed his eyes, but he soon heard Ken sniffling, causing him to look over at him. He saw that Ken was holding back tears, and Ken also said that he hoped Yuru would be able to see his parents soon as well, which Yuru agreed with. At their feet, the Divine Guardians silently watched over them. After that, the scene shifted to Hannah and Dera's side, where Dera asked Hannah about the jar sitting there, prompting her to explain that she had been told it contained Ken's mother. Dera commented that she apparently still did not have a proper resting place, making Hannah realize that he was referring to her ashes. Hannah stared at the jar for a while before deciding that if Ken was alright with it, they could find a nice spot for her on his mountain. Dera commented that it was a good plan and jokingly called her gravedigger Hannah. Hannah replied that she would dig a grave for him too anytime, before heading toward her room and saying goodnight. The next day, the scene shifted to the Kagemori compound. A woman arrived there and was escorted by Jean. Asa and Gabby noticed her immediately and recognized her as the woman from the raid. The woman reminded them that she was Makoto Tachikawa and thanked them for letting her go. Asa then remembered her and greeted her, while Gabby pointed out that she was the fox and tanuki chick. Asa asked Makoto if she was working at the moment, which she confirmed as she explained that Jean had called her there. Asa also greeted her demons, Akai and Midori, and realized that they still had not seen what their powers were, causing Makoto to explain that their specialty was abduction and kidnapping. She explained that it was similar to the pair Hamura used to have, Yin and Yang. Those demons could hide people away and bring them back again, which intrigued Asa and made her realize that was the reason they had been recruited for the mission to kidnap them. Gabby then asked Makoto, while calling her Mako, how exactly her demons kidnapped people. So Makoto explained that they had a honey trap involving a certain foxy lady since Akai could transform into a human. As for Midori, she asked if they knew the saying as big as a tanuki's scrotum, before explaining that Midori's could stretch absurdly far and wide, almost like casting a net, and wrap around the target before abducting them in an instant, leaving Gabby and Asa completely horrified by both the idea and the mental image of how that happened. Makoto then added to Jean that the little guy had once participated in the legendary Shikaku Tanuki War, and while she kept rambling on, Gabby became deeply disturbed by the image of being captured by getting enveloped inside a tanuki's ball sack and questioned just how terrifying that would be. Meanwhile, Asa tearfully thanked Yin and Yang for abducting her before Midori could do it instead, then commented that Midori was the ultimate evil, which left Makoto confused. Not long after, Asa suddenly said to wait a second and pointed out that Makoto had mentioned Jin called her there for a job, so she asked if they were planning to use Midori to kidnap Yuru. However, Jin immediately shook his head and refused. He clarified that he had asked Makoto to come there and inspect the non-existent West Gate. When they arrived there, Makoto was completely stunned as she swore that the gate had been there before, but now it was gone. She explained that once they entered, the large stone had been there, along with the loquat and pear trees, and the West Gate had definitely been there too. So she questioned why it had disappeared. Gabby explained that there was always Sensei, who could draw over things, but Asa denied that idea and explained that if Hagure Sensei's demon pair had been responsible, the area would have remained black and white for a while, and they would have noticed immediately. Jin then began feeling along the wall, and before long, he noticed something there. He pointed out that there was a thin line there, immediately catching the girl's attention. Asa asked where it was, while Makoto spotted it as well and agreed that Jin was right, commenting that the line was extremely clean. Asa then found another one, causing everyone to look again. After both of them identified it, Makoto commented that it was almost the exact width of a gate. Jin then questioned what could possibly leave such a thin mark, first wondering if it had been a razor before immediately retracting the idea and pointing out that whatever made it was even sharper than that. While that was happening, the scene shifted to the city. Inside a towering building, someone informed Mr. Shingo that he had a visitor waiting at the front desk, prompting him to instruct his employee to send the guest up. It turned out to be Asuma, and an employee escorted him to Mr. Shingo's room. Asuma entered and greeted Shingo while calling him uncle. Shingo complimented him by saying he looked well, which Asuma answered by saying he was doing fine and thanked him. Shingo apologized for always making him come all the way there, causing Asuma to reply that if that was truly how he felt, he could visit the Kagemori compound once in a while himself. Shingo immediately refused and said he had no intention of putting himself in a position where Fuyuki's blacklist could extract all of his personal information, nor would he ever step foot inside that mansion without weapons or demons. Asuma explained that nobody would attack him if he was unarmed, but Shingo merely took a sip from his drink. Shingo then asked for the latest news and what had happened after the incident at the Kagemori compound. So Asuma replied that nothing had changed and explained that, just as he had already reported, Asa remained with the Kagemori clan while Yuru had gone with the Tadera. Shingo slammed his glass onto the table and angrily pointed out that Asuma had let the brat with the seal slip through his fingers without even putting up a fight. He stared at him intensely and asked how long he intended to keep hesitating and why he had failed to capture one of the twins during such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, demanding to know what was wrong with him. Asuma merely smiled and explained that Yuru and his demons were difficult opponents to handle, and Shingo would have understood if he had been there personally. Shingo became irritated but stopped himself from pressing the matter further and instead irritably ordered him to get rid of Hagure the manga artist, because once he was gone, Asuma would become the next head of the family. However, Asuma explained that even if Hagure disappeared, he doubted the current head would simply fade away that easily. Shingo then said that if brute force would not work, then Asuma should seduce Asa instead. He pointed out that she was a naive young girl and told him to flirt with her and make her his, but Asuma simply grinned again and explained that it was illegal for an adult to mess around with a 16-year-old, causing Shingo to question whether he really could not ignore one tiny law. Shingo clicked his tongue afterward and commented that Asuma was just as useless as his mother, which seemed to snap something inside Asuma. Asuma simply stated that he had nothing else to report and said he would be leaving now. He asked his uncle to visit the Kagemori Manor once in a while secretly releasing his butterfly demon to spy on the place, but Shingo merely brushed the request aside. Asuma then left the room, while the sound of a toilet flushing in the restroom caught Shingo's attention. The person inside sounded confused and asked if his nephew had already left. Shingo agreed and commented that he had forgotten to mention that the man was there. He brushed it off and added that he was sure they would meet again anyway. Meanwhile, as the butterfly Asuma had left behind continued flying, it was suddenly sliced vertically with unbelievable precision, and the person responsible, who was holding a katana, commented that he wondered whether Shingo had taught his nephew any manners at all. After that, the man told Shingo that if he let his guard down around his own family, they would suddenly pull the ground right out from under his feet.